People filter in. I knew that was going to be too high. I hate all these little stickers. You're a sentient being. Your autonomy should be respected, despite if you're dependent on somebody for your care or help. Autonomy is not dependent on independence. You can still have autonomy even if you can't really take care of yourself in every aspect. Let's see. There we go. That's what I want. To you. I guess to you guys. Okay. Excuse me. Get some water. Why did I choose to be vegan? Because I recognized that there was a sentient being that I was demanding be exploited and oppressed. And if I wouldn't tolerate that, why am I subjecting some other sentient being to that? If I said no, I don't understand your question. Yeah, that's creepy. So then, like, what really justifies violating someone's body for your pleasure, your sensory pleasures? Hey, Chip. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey. How's your day?
It's pretty good. Give me one second. I don't know why the everything's with this whole situation is on. Let me put on my headphones. Give me one second. I'll mute myself.
No worries, no worries. If it's still not working, there's another trick I can do, so let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, TikTok has some, I don't know, lately it's been amping up its glitches. I don't like it. But, yeah. Again, guys, we're talking about, really what it comes down to is, are you sure you're living in alignment with your own principles? If you agree that other humans that are moral agents should just automatically respect your autonomy and your sentience without having a deep conversation about what you think is moral, then you have the similar moral responsibility as those people to reflect that to all sentient beings with similar capacities. You can jump in, Chip, if you want to. I don't know if you were reading any comments or anything.
Oh, okay, I'm back. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, did you fix your thing?
Do you hear any echo or something?
No.
No. Okay, that's perfect. No, so I disconnected my headphones because apparently when I connect my headphones in the microphone, it doesn't work.
Are your headphones wireless?
Yeah.
Does it give you a little error message?
It doesn't. It just doesn't work. It's weird.
Oh.
It's weird.
Okay. I sometimes get it.
The more technology you get, the more buggy it gets, I guess.
Absolutely. I get a little error message, but my system still works, but I think it does cause a delay. Because I could hear you last time, but I guess it was on your side you were hearing an echo. Is that what you're...
No, I'm asking right now if you hear an echo because I don't have headphones, so you're basically... the audio is coming through my phone.
Got it. I don't hear an echo. That's awesome. Yeah, perfect. Usually you do have to have headphones, so I'm glad that fixed it.
Yeah, well,
I'm just reading through the comments.
What was being said in the comments? The more ridiculous arguments against veganism.
Yeah. Let's see if I can go back. Oh, someone was just saying, like, there's taste good. And 1,000% yes, they would go ahead and do it. Because my question today is, if they could say no, would you still do it? Which I think is just really important, that because we focus on consent and autonomy, and if those are important, why are we leaving individuals feeling emotional, sentient individuals out of that?
Yeah, I see Jacob says, hell yeah, I'll still do it. Come on, Jacob, jump on it. Jump on here.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation.
Oh, I have a guest. It might be a child, though. We'll see. I love waffles. Hey, are you over 18?
I don't know.
Oh, gosh.
That
Go
does
ask
not
your
sound
mom why
like-
you... Yeah, go ask your mom why you shouldn't talk to strangers on the internet. Annex. I mean, it's fine. I'm glad you're in here and curious, at least. That's good. Hey, Annex.
Yeah.
Are you over 18? Are you over 18?
Yes. Wait, no. I'm 16. No, I'm 16. I'm 16. Please don't take me down. Please don't take me down. I don't want to.
I have to. I have to. It's TikTok rules. I literally cannot. They'll just end my life. But you can ask your question in the chat. I didn't see you talking in there earlier, but yeah. Go ahead and ask your question in there. Woo. I feel like we're just getting a bunch of children all at once. Woo? Oh gosh. Okay, you guys, you have to be over 18. It says it right there. You gotta be over 18, please. I don't mind if you hang out and watch. That's totally okay, but TikTok
You can
rules
still
say I
ask
can't talk.
questions in the chat, right?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. Please, any questions you have, throw them at us. I am genuinely here for curious minds.
Somebody said it's the circle of life. I wouldn't say it's the circle of life, like, I don't think you would accept that as a justification for killing a dog and eating them, would you? Because you probably see dogs as, beings who don't deserve to be exploited and slaughtered. So no, it's not the circle of life. It's something we invented, this whole circle. Actually, it's from Lion King, the circle of life.
It is. It's a movie. It's a Disney movie. If plants could say no, would you still do it? Well, the thing is, we use more plants to raise animals. So yes, I would still use the plants, but I would be looking for other alternatives if we could. I don't want to cause anybody harm. But that just sounds, they're not sentient, so luckily we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's not like animals can't say no, but they can communicate no. That's the difference, right?
Right.
Like animals want to say no, but they just can't say it because they don't have the vocal cords to say no, or the knowledge.
I mean, like, anybody who has a companion and has had to give them medicine, and maybe they don't eat it through food. Like if you had a cat and you had to give them medicine, you'll understand. They say no. They clearly say no. But we just ignore it.
Yeah.
So just because we've been doing something for a long time, it doesn't mean we should continue if it's causing someone's harm. Cattle, each one is an individual having a subjective experience. And just as you are a subject having an experience and don't deserve to be exploited, same with the cows. They don't deserve, they don't want to, so why are we ignoring their preferences? Yes, we're not talking about unaliving someone. We're talking about stealing their freedom or stealing their ability to have future experiences when they wanted to continue living. Plants are living, but they're not sentient. They don't look forward to things. They just respond. It doesn't matter if so this person says, I don't know, when you go to a farm and you look at a cow, they have no idea what's going on. I mean, a lot of humans wouldn't know that I'm sneaking up on them if I wanted to eat their flesh and pew them from behind, right?
Yeah, plus it's
That
by
would still be
design.
immoral.
The whole so that cows don't know what's happening to them. You could easily make a design also where humans don't know what's happening to them. That doesn't mean it's ethical to do whatever to them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have to trick them because they don't consent. Oh, let's see. We have 2 requests.
Nice.
I don't really like your name, but Bob, we'll bring you up.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey, are you over 18?
I am.
Right on. So if they could say no, would you still do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, but and the reason is because they're guilty of doing to other things what we would do to them, right? So
Cows?
if they don't consume other life,
chickens?
then they if chickens don't consume other life, then they get unalived. So they consume other life.
So why are we force breeding them? If they're so terrible, stop breeding them.
Well, I don't know, but it's okay to do to them what they do to others. Now the difference is hold on. The difference is the plants. The plants don't consume other life. The plants are innocent. Okay, your ethical system is totally backwards.
Wait. I'm using your logic, and I'm saying that makes sense then to kill and eat humans, right?
No, it doesn't. No, we're not gonna do that.
But
we're not going to do that.
You just mentioned that they cause harm, don't they?
Other fish consume life, right? Therefore, we can consume the fish's life, right?
Wait, other humans consume. Humans cause the most harm and kill the most lives. Therefore, eating
we're not going to do that. Do you think we should eat humans? Because I don't.
But why? Because it seems like you're not morally consistent then.
Maybe I'm not, but my point is the animals are not innocent, right? The plants are innocent. The plants only consume sunlight.
So then shouldn't you want
consume
the
photons.
least amount
They're
of
innocent.
plants to be killed?
No, we should not unalive the plants, right?
Okay, but wouldn't you want?
So vegans prioritize sentience over innocence, and I think that's totally backwards. The plants are innocent.
No, that's not true.
We should prioritize
that's not true,
innocence.
First of all, if you think that that plants are innocent as you claim,
they are innocent,
and you should be unaliving as many plants as possible.
No.
Surely you want to wait. Would you say then, according to your logic, since you don't want to unalive plants, then since you anyway have to unalive some plants in your diet, wouldn't you want to unalive the least amount of plants?
Yes, exactly. Yes, we should not unalive the plants. The plants are innocent. So then we should put innocence over sentience. Yes, so your ethical system is totally backwards.
Over sentience. You don't have to repeat it. But then I need to understand, because do you think that the animals consume considerably more plants to get the same amount of calories from their flesh or their secretions? Do you think that they would be consuming considerably more plants than you would otherwise consume to get the same amount of calories or protein?
I don't know, but the point is the animals are.
Well, I do know because there's studies
to sustain life. Right? If they don't consume life, then their life ends, and that's the same for us. And so we're all guilty of that. But wait.
But your argument is all over the place. So first of all, we start off with some form of logic that you don't apply to everyone. You don't apply to humans.
We're not going to eat humans, sir.
You only apply it to animals. Then and that doesn't work. Then you say we should be killing as few plants as possible. And then I say, well, if you want to kill as few plants as possible, you should adopt a plant-based diet, since that kills the least amount of plants.
No, and the plants are innocent.
According to your logic. So basically, you're just applying logical arguments that make no sense.
No, I'm saying don't eat the plants because they're innocent. I'm saying eat the animals.
But you understand that animals can eat considerably more plants. So if you want to defend plants, you would have to eat plants in order to defend plants. It may sound counterintuitive.
No, we need to eat the animals as quickly as possible. Because they are eating the plants, and pointing out that I don't want to eat humans isn't a logical inconsistency. Okay, that's normal. No, it's not. We're not going to eat humans.
You didn't
best me by pointing out that I don't want to eat a human. Okay, that's gross.
You're saying that we should be eating animals because plants are innocent. Humans are the least innocent individuals on this planet. We destroy
I'm not
the planet.
eating humans.
We kill
You
other
didn't-
humans,
you didn't
and
get me
we
by-
go on
by-
TikTok and debate with other humans why it's wrong to kill sentient beings, and humans defend this horrific things of sentient beings.
You
this
call it a
unaliving of
logical
sentient beings.
inconsistency because I don't want to eat humans. You're gross. You know that? Why are you talking about eating humans in the first place?
Bob, why are
Can
you
you kick this
here?
cannibal off your panel? He's weirding me out.
I'll kick you off my panel. Wow.
So I'm a cannibal for applying his logic to every individual. Wow, that's insane.
That guy cannot understand logic. Like, you laid it out pretty clear. If he thinks that plants deserve welfare, then stop demanding so many of them be abused and used for animals.
Yeah,
it's pretty clear. And then exactly, if we're talking about innocence, as you pointed out, humans do the most destruction. Oh, that was interesting. I wanted to kick him, but at the same, I know that you like to persevere, so I let you go. But just know, Chip, if you feel like you're done with someone, you can either say you're done or you can kick them. I'm fine with either decision. So.
Before we go on, I just want to express to everybody, because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand why logical consistency is very important. And if you're going to come up here, you better have some form of logical consistency. The reason for that is because if you don't have logical consistency, then let's say you have a rule in your head that creates and says, well, my morality stems from this. Then if you change the individuals in your moral values to be different individuals and you might be the victim, then you should find that just as moral. So logical consistency in morality essentially means that if we apply the same rules you apply to others, applied onto you, then they should also work, okay? Because otherwise, it's not like you pick and choose who the victim is and then all of a sudden, oh, that's morality. Because then racism would be moral and all sorts of other isms would become moral, and they're clearly not.
Right. Yeah, it's never, every time in history that we look back and we see that we use arbitrary traits as some means to justify oppression and exploitation, we're always going backwards. You know, we're not progressing, morally speaking. Like, we've always looked back on those types of things in shame, being like, why were we thinking of things like that?
Yeah,
so this is just another situation we need to look at, go, okay, this isn't right, even though we've done it for a long time. Even though they're different from us, they still share the important qualities that we value in each other. All right, owl glasses. Are you over 18?
Yeah, 27.
Okay. So if they could say no, would you still use them?
I believe that most of society probably wouldn't. Are we mostly talking about people looking at cows here? If cows could say no, I'm assuming that the hypothetical means that they would have some form of like higher sentience, probably like on the level of human.
Are you in like a tunnel? It's kind of hard to hear you, and you keep kind of going in and out.
Sorry. Is this any better? We'll go over now.
It sounds about the same, but I can at least understand you. Can you repeat what you said? I don't know if I got everything.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm using wireless headphones, so I don't know how good they actually are.
Man, TikTok must have had an update because wireless headphones seem to be causing a lot of issues.
Okay. But just to get a clarification, if they could say no, so this is assuming that in this scenario, cows have the same level of sentience as humans do?
Yes, but sentience is binary. You either are experiencing life or aren't. So I do recognize... Okay, so animals, I want to be clear, I do recognize they are different. They may have different types of intelligence and different spectrums of those intelligence, but they are sentient just as humans.
Oh yeah, I'm completely aware of that. I'm not denying their sentience at all. But there is a different level of it, and as humans do value a certain level of sentience.
Can you describe what levels of sentience means?
I guess that could just be your level of cognition. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry. I believe that would probably just be your cognitive ability to assess the world around you. Humans can do it more so than most animals. We're just smarter creatures. But if cows could, for instance, say no, then I don't believe the majority of humanity would eat them. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, totally, like last dude. We value a certain level of that. So if that were the case, we just wouldn't eat cows.
But wait a minute. Would you eat dogs?
No.
No, but why? They have the same level, quote unquote, level of sentience as cows do.
The reason we wouldn't eat dogs is mainly because that they had a different purpose in human society, and that's why we never normalized the eating of dogs. We normalized the eating of such like cows, pigs, chickens, because they provide a certain level of nutrition and because of farming value and stuff like that.
That's not true. Even you would agree that a dog provides considerably more nutrition than a chicken.
Not really, no.
Excuse me? Do you think a 35 kilograms dog would not provide more than a 10 kilograms chicken?
Yeah, but the level of protein is way different.
The level of protein is way different. Please explain this statement because it sounds pretty wacky.
Chicken is generally more nutritious than dogs, and the dogs also.
Which nutritious?
Don't get me wrong. You could get more meat from certain animals. However,
wait. Which nutrients? You said that chicken is more nutritious. Which nutrients are we talking about?
I'm just generally just talking about like protein wise.
Okay. So which protein then? Which amino acids?
I'm not too sure myself.
Okay, so you don't know. Okay, tell me how much protein does a chicken have?
I don't know. I guess it depends on the chicken.
Okay, so you don't know how much protein a chicken has. You don't know how much protein a dog has. You don't know what amino acid profile a chicken has, and yet you make this claim that somehow that a chicken is somehow more nutrient rich than a dog. Well, I'll tell you what, it isn't, first of all, and second, you said that the reason why you don't eat dogs is because you have assigned a purpose to dogs. Do you think that's a fair way to approach life? In a sense that if somebody assigns a purpose to you to be exploited and unalived, would that then be fair for somebody to do that to you because they assigned that purpose to you?
Well, what I'm saying is that the dogs were assigned a very different purpose than certain animals were. Dogs are not good for breeding to eat. They just aren't. There are better animals to do that.
But that's what I'm saying. What if you were assigned a purpose to be exploited? If you are better exploited than what you're doing currently, would it be fair for somebody to exploit you?
Exploit what? Me as a human?
You as who you are. I don't know what your species is, but I'm assuming yes, you as a human.
Well, are you assuming that animals and humans no? When I say value, I mean subjectively. Objectively, there is no value. Objectively, humans, animals, whatnot, we all have no actual moral value. So I'm not trying to say that is the case. I'm not going to try to argue that. This comes from a subjective standpoint, just based on what we know as to why things are.
Wait a minute. I have a problem with that statement. First of all, there's no such thing as objective value. I would agree with that. But do you think that a human being has no value? And I don't, by the way, I don't mean value that this human being cannot provide for you or society. This human being does not help anyone in need. They live alone. They don't have a family. Does this mean that this human being does not have value?
Okay, so what do you mean by value? Like, elaborate on that. Do you mean like an actual productive value? Or are you talking more? Or are you trying to value?
I mean a moral value. So a human being who does not a moral value.
Okay. So then I guess I would have to ask: morality is subjective or objective?
No, I would ask you to please answer this question. I believe morality is subjective. So according to your own moral values, do you think a human being has moral value?
Yes. So, according to my own values, I do believe I place value in different things on different levels.
Why?
Why do I give value?
No, why do you think a human being has moral value?
Well, I guess in part it also has to do with just how I'm wired as a human species. Animals tend to care more for their own generally, so humans tend to do.
Okay. Why do you think a dog has moral value? Let me ask you this then.
I guess for the same reason. Humans grew up alongside dogs and treat dogs for a purpose. Dogs have been alongside us, not as
so have cows. So have cows, chickens, and pigs. They're domesticated animals. They have been with us along the same road, and I would argue that. So wait a minute, but are you saying that the moral value of an individual stems from the external value that you give them, or do you think individuals have moral value on their own?
Do they just inherently have value?
Yes. Does an individual inherently have moral value? Do you have inherent moral value? Not inherent, intrinsic, I'll call it. Not inherent, intrinsic.
I guess it would depend on the society that you live in.
So you think there's human beings on this planet? You think there's human beings on this planet who don't have intrinsic moral value because they are in a society that does not value them?
Again, it's a subjective matter of moral value. Now, what
Of course, again, we're always talking about your subjective perspective, always.
Okay, all right. So if we're going on my own personal view, yes, I do believe that some people, human beings, do have a certain value to them, simply just for the fact that they are human beings.
Wait.
And I place value for humans higher than any other animal.
But you cannot possibly, like, this argument that somebody has moral value simply because they are a human being is not a logical statement. You understand that, right? It's basically because I ask you, why does a human being have moral value? That's what I'm interested in. Why is it, in your opinion, that a human being has moral value? Not because they're human. That's just like circular reasoning. I'm in general interested. What gives a human being moral value?
The reason I say that, and I'm not trying to be circular with that, is that we as a species give value to us because it's what animals do.
You just admitted that morality is subjective. Not we as a species give value. You as an individual say that every member of your species has moral value. So I'm just here trying to understand, because it sounds to me
no, not every member. No, sorry.
Not every member. Okay.
No. There's some people that have no moral value whatsoever that need to be buried underneath the prison.
What's up with those people?
I don't know the words I'm allowed to say on here, but rapists, children touchers, stuff like that. They have no moral value.
So those individuals, if they commit something that is wrong, then what you're saying is they lose all their moral value because they're no longer innocent, right?
For certain things, yeah. I would also say that you can do something wrong and not lose all your moral value. There is, I believe, a certain point at which you do something so reprehensible.
But Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I understand you have a strong emotional opinion on these individuals, but you still haven't answered my question. And I think I'll ask it one last time, because if you don't understand it, it doesn't make sense. Why? What exactly gives a human being moral value? And let me be specific what I'm interested in. What exactly gives a human being moral value? And can that thing ever apply to an animal?
What is it that gives moral value and cannot apply to an animal? For my own subjective standard, okay. So I'll kind of answer the first point. I'll kind of answer both of them together in a way. Myself, what gives value to me is the relationships that I have with people. Like, me is just me. I'm not talking about other people, what I think people ought to do. Me is me. It's the relationships that I have with certain things that give it value. My animals, my cats, my dogs, turtles, lizards, everything I've ever owned throughout my life, I would probably give more value to those animals than I would the majority of the other people on the planet. I would give value to that.
I'm not asking you what your value system is of who has more value than others. I understand that, and it's logical. We all have individuals who we place more value on than others, of course. I'm asking you the moral value that you claim human beings have, or at least most human beings have, as you have said. Where is that moral value coming from, and what is it that an animal needs to have to get the same amount of moral value as every other human being on this planet?
Well, I guess the prompt would be a good one, is if they could, I guess, get to like a certain level of either intelligence or sentience, however you really want to call it, consciousness. If that were the case, then yeah, I believe that cows would most definitely be equals.
Okay, but then what you're saying essentially is that the human beings who cannot say no, the human beings who do not have the capability, maybe they're mute, maybe they're intellectually challenged, maybe somebody hit their head so bad that they can no longer talk, they can no longer ration, and they have the same cognitive abilities of an animal. There are definitely human beings on this planet that suffer for this condition. Do you think that these individuals do not have moral value?
No, because I go based off of capability. The human race, humans have the capability to attain that point. No cow has the capability of doing that.
Not these individuals. These individuals have absolutely the same capabilities as a cow or a pig.
Well, but every human born has the capability to...
Not these ones. I'm asking you specifically about these ones. If you say that moral value comes from their capability or their cognitive abilities, I'm telling you these individuals don't have these capabilities or the cognitive abilities to say no. So then does this mean that these individuals do not have moral value?
Like what? You're talking about people who are mute?
People who are mute, people who are cognitively impaired, that cannot say no, they cannot speak, they cannot ration. They have the same cognitive abilities of a cow.
Okay, so I guess, I mean, like, so you're asking, like, what? If we can eat them, or if we can, like, or just more about moral value? Are we just sticking to moral value, or are we getting to the eat them part?
Well, we can. Well, first of all, when it says if you could say no, would you still do it? It's not. It doesn't say anything about eating them. You jump to the assumption that it is about eating them. Veganism is not about eating somebody. It's about respecting the rights of individuals, such as animals, sentient individuals, just much like we do respecting the rights of humans. The reason why I posed all of these questions is because you seem to think that we should be respecting the rights of humans, but not the rights of certain animals. And I just need to understand what is the logic behind it. And I've tried deconstructing it with you. And you've gotten to the point where you said that it's about cognitive abilities, and I simply said, well, if a human being has the same cognitive abilities of an animal, then would it be fair to see them just like we do these animals? That means maybe test on them, maybe exploit them, or maybe unalive them for food.
Okay, it's not only about cognitive ability. Let me get that straight. Like, I'm not gonna go to one thing and be like, nope, yep, that is the thing, that's the thing as to why it's good. It's a myriad of a bunch of different things. Cognitive capability is one of them. Just innately being a human is one of them, because it's just true. It's just the reality of it is that it's uncomfortable. It's for
but that's
the majority
yet again, you reach the circular reasoning part, because you say because they're human. But then I can tell you, all of a sudden, I will change all the definitions in all the books on this planet, and thus call every cow on this planet a human being. Does that mean is wrong and continuing to do so is wrong? Or what specifically is it about the human condition or about being human? You said it's not just cognitive abilities. So what else is there then?
Well, again, it's not really circular. People place value in what is familiar. And animals do this too. A herd of cows are going to prefer themselves. A herd of lions are going to prefer lions. It's how it is. Humans do the same thing, but just to a higher degree of level. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be circular. I'm just trying to say that what we're basically doing.
Al, I need you to understand that right now what you're talking about is in group. You're saying because these individuals, although they can suffer, they can feel, they have preferences, because they're not in my group, it's okay for me to dominate them and oppress them and use them despite whatever it is they prefer. That's what you're saying right now when you say they're not human.
Yes, because I don't place the same value with animals that I do.
You don't need to, though. I'm not asking you to place the same value on humans and animals. I'm saying what justifies causing them harm when you can eat something else easily, when you could use something else easily.
Yeah, you could, but awfully?
What?
Just because we could do something doesn't mean that it's the morally right.
I didn't hear the first part of what you said. Can you repeat it?
Oh, okay. I said just because we could do something, does that mean that ought we do something?
Oh, just because we could use something, does that mean ought we do something or use them? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, do you believe that?
No, not really.
Okay, so knowing that you don't need to use them, doesn't that change the way that you look at animals? Like you're using them for pleasure instead of necessity? You're ignoring what is in their best interest for your entertainment?
I guess it depends, because when you say pleasure, there is an inherent difference.
Okay, let me make it more clear. Do you go to the circus?
No, they abuse animals at the circus, so I don't.
Right. Do you go to the zoo?
No.
Is it because they are unnecessarily suffering for human entertainment?
I would say it's because it's cruel treatment. That's why.
Right. What's wrong with cruel treatment? Is it because someone having an experience can suffer? When someone is treated cruelly, they suffer. That's why cruel treatment is wrong, right?
Well, yeah, and it's the same reason why I'm against factory farming. I think factory farming is
isn't using someone when you don't need to abusive, even if you do it in the kindest way?
Just because you can use someone even though that you don't need to abuse. I don't think all instances of
So,
it are...
so in what instance is, like, let's say, human slavery moral?
Not moral according to my own view, no.
And why is it not moral?
Again, because humans have a higher cognitive function, and it's just...
So, again, you keep referring to intelligence. Could I enslave non-intelligent humans? Would that be moral?
No.
Okay, let's say that they're not human. Let's say that we come across a part of an island that we haven't seen before, and there's a village of people here who are actually stemmed from a different species. We don't share a common ancestor, but they look like us. Sure. They look similar to us. Some of them could participate in our society, but most of them are of the cognition of animals. Is it moral then for me to enslave them?
Is it moral to enslave them? So they look exactly like us, but they have the cognitive ability of animals.
Right.
Okay. Probably not.
It's because you recognize that they're having an experience, right? Because they look like you. Typically, when you look at another human, you see yourself in them. And you know for your own preferences, you prefer to avoid harm and to not be used without your consent. You demand, in fact, that your consent be recognized, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay, so even if, let's say you got knocked on the head, I hope it never happens, but let's say you lose your sapience, but you're still sentient. You can still play with toys. You still have preferences of individuals you want to be around. Is it moral for me to enslave you just because you're not the same individual you were before? You're not as sapient and able to contribute to anything?
Well, no.
Right, so it's our sentience that we care about in other humans, right? The fact that even though a human may not be able to understand everything around them, be able to do really anything, they're still having an experience. And the fact that they can suffer and the fact that they want to continue living are the only things that matter, right? So
Yeah, but I also think there's a certain level of it where it's how much suffering do you think is appropriate? Because to live is to cause suffering. Like the one example I've heard in the past is, are you familiar with vegan games?
Yeah.
Okay. As you know, and I'm not going to try to use this as an argument. When plants and vegans go to farm, there are animals, unfortunately, unalived in the process.
Okay, I'm going to save you your breath. You're just talking about crop deaths. You're talking about animals being unalived in the process of cultivating plant crops, right?
Yes, and I'm not trying to say that is the same.
So, Al, I need you to understand, though, this is a really disingenuous argument because animals use more plants than humans do. If we eliminated animal ag, we would reduce our agricultural land use by 75%. Animals use so much land because they eat more plants, so we're making more crop fields for animals. So to use animals is to compound crop deaths.
That's not my argument. That's not where I'm trying to go with this. I know it sounds like that's where I'm going. I'm not trying to go. I know it's completely different.
Go ahead.
Like, for instance, vegan games eats more plants than he needs to. You don't need to eat as many plants as vegan games does. You don't need to survive.
Go ahead, Chip.
It's the bodybuilder argument. It's the bodybuilder, that the vegan bodybuilder may cause more harm. Is that it?
Yes, is that he knowingly consumes more.
Yeah, but let me explain a little bit. So first of all, because I think we need to be clear on this one. I don't really care how much harm you create. This isn't a utilitarian stance where we start calculating, well, you make more harm on this situation or make less harm on this other situation. The point of it is that if you see animals as individuals that they are, how you see dogs basically, because you do see dogs as individuals, we see all animals as individuals because they're sentient. And if you see that, you wouldn't say, I would kill my dog if it causes less harm, would you? You would still, first of all, look after the interests of individuals. You would not say, I would kill a human being if it causes less harm. Yes, also. You would first and foremost look after the preference, not the preference, but what the individual wants, right? What the needs and the rights of the individuals always come first. It's not about harm. I like literally, like you choosing to exploit innocent individuals, whether it causes more harm in the end or less, it's still a bad thing. Because if you start calculating harm right now, sure, maybe you can calculate harm in one way or another, but the reality is the only way to make everything better, to go to a society where, let's say, you want absolutely no harm to be caused, is with us respecting rights of individuals. The ends do not justify the means. That's my point. Do you think the ends justify the means?
In all situations?
Well, I would say you would not. Would you think that unaliving innocent humans, if it causes less harm in the end, is justified?
Yes, because we did it in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Sorry, because of are you saying that the nuclear bomb was justified?
Yes, it was justified because we ended the war early. Many more people would have been unalive if.
I'm sorry. I'm not gonna tolerate that. That sounds crazy. That was not justified to take out so many innocent people.
I mean, that's the whole thing about it, isn't it? Because, like, okay, that thing ended the war, but that wasn't the only way to end the war. That's the ridiculous thing, that these people are making these ridiculous claims because they say they cling on to what was done or what is done instead of what should be done. So,
yeah, he literally, you could justify human slavery then if it reduced harm.
Also, exactly.
Yeah, which, I mean, was still the same point that he basically brought up with the nuclear bomb. So he made the same point anyway. He was okay with harming others to reach his solutions, I guess. The point is that we were all trying to make is that we all care about our own autonomy, we care about our safety, we avoid harm, we look forward to living. So do the animals. The things that we value in other humans, animals have the same things. That's what we're saying. That deserves the same respect that we demand.
Yep.
All right, let's see. R. John. Hey, R. John, are you over 18?
I am. I'm almost 60.
Right on. So if they could say no, would you still do it?
Yes. I am not a vegan, and I have several reasons why. The animals are a food source. It's socially acceptable. It's legal. And within my wheelhouse, I consider it moral, and I enjoy the flavor.
Wait. I'm just like, I'm sorry, but like, so your arguments are, it's socially acceptable, you enjoy it. Can you say all those arguments again?
It's a food source. It's socially acceptable.
It's a food source. It's socially acceptable, yes.
It's legal.
It's legal.
Personally, I consider it moral.
Okay.
And I enjoy meat.
Okay, then would you say that somebody who is a slave owner could say exactly the same thing about the individuals that he's enslaving?
Well, there's a couple issues with that. First, one, it's not legal, and in my wheelhouse, that is absolutely not moral. And it never has.
Wait, but it was legal at some point, right? Do you think that when it was legal, it was moral?
No, and that's
so when it was legal, it was fulfilling absolutely 100% of the reasons you just mentioned.
No, it wasn't, because we went to war. We divided a country over slavery.
No, wait a minute. But to the individuals that were enslaving, they were doing it for exactly the same reasons that you just mentioned. It's legal, it's my preference, I enjoy it, and all that other stuff that you said.
It's not moral.
Well, wait. But they were considering it moral, just like you are considering this moral.
Yep, and they were wrong.
But you are right.
Yes.
And what exactly makes you right, but them wrong? Like, what exactly is it that somehow they were wrong about that moral value that was arbitrarily placed, but your moral value that is arbitrarily placed is right?
Well, we are all a product of socialization and our experiences, and everybody has their own moral compass.
And according to your according to your own moral logic, you would have to say that they were behaving morally because they thought they were acting morally, it was legal, they were getting benefit from it, and they were enjoying the product that came from it. So all of these rules that you have, and it was legal, all of these rules that you applied, they applied to what they were doing. They were considering it moral. So then you would say that they were acting morally then.
I don't. So you're going to run across different values and different morals with people from different parts of the world, different parts of the countries. I don't know where you're at. I'm in the United States, but
those are your values, by the way, right?
Yes.
Like I just applied your logical values to a different individual. So by your own logic, you should find what they're doing is moral because it's your own values of what defines whether something it is moral or not. You don't agree with it.
But my values say that that's not moral.
But wait a minute. Wait. Your values say that that is not moral. Okay. I'm going
Slavery
to
was not
demonstrate
moral.
to you
Never has been.
Say that again?
Slavery is not moral. It never has been.
Okay. Tell me again why exploiting animals is moral. One by one, I'm going to write it down and show you that that's exactly what a slave owner would say.
It's a food source.
It's a food source, okay. It's a labor source.
It is socially acceptable.
Oh, perfect. That was also socially acceptable.
It's legal.
Oh, I mean, yes.
I personally believe it to be moral.
So it's legal. You believe it to be moral, yes.
And I enjoy eating meat.
So you enjoy the product that comes out of it.
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. So I'll 1 second. You enjoy the product. Okay. So I'm going to tell you right again because I wrote it down. It's a food source. It's socially acceptable. It's legal. I think it's moral, and I enjoy the product. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So right now I'm going to transpose myself to a person in the past who is pro-slavery. Okay. This isn't me. I'm just going to be a character who is a slave owner right now, okay? I'm gonna say you will ask me, well, is what you're doing is enslaving an individual moral, right? And I will reply with this: it's a labor source, it's socially acceptable, it's legal, I think it's moral, and I enjoy the product that comes out of it.
Okay, but you are putting my morals on somebody else.
Exactly. That's how moral consistency works. Your logical values need to be put on somebody else in order to apply a logical system of values. Values, morality, the reason why we have morality is so that we understand how we behave with each other. It's not to show what you prefer, okay? It's not to show what you think is right or wrong, but rather to show how you prefer that people behave with each other. So if you follow these rules for morality, then you prefer that people follow these rules whenever they do something. So if somebody thinks that something is moral, that if they enjoy the product that comes out of it, if it's legal, if it's socially acceptable, and if it's a source of something that they benefit from it, then all of a sudden this thing is moral according to you.
But then again, you're trying to say that I believe that slavery is moral, and I don't. And there were a lot of people that back then didn't think it was moral either, or we would have never went to a civil war. We would still have slavery today.
But wait a minute. Do you agree? Let me ask you this way then. Do you agree that if you were born in those times, according to your own logic, you would have agreed that if you were born in those times and in a situation, in a family that owned slaves, then you would have thought slavery was moral, correct?
No, I am not saying that.
Wait a minute. How come you're not saying that? So if your own moral values, if you were born 200 years ago, you definitely would have thought it's moral because your parents taught you that it's moral because that's what they do. And every other thing, that it's a labor source, it's socially acceptable, it's legal, and you enjoy the product, would have been your justifications for doing it. So therefore, you would have been pro-slavery.
I would not have been in a family my family has always been in the North. And so if I was born in that situation, I can't answer that question. I mean, that's outlandish because now you're comparing animals to people.
Yes, I can compare animals to people because animals are people, by the way. Animals are humans. Humans are animals.
Humans are animals, but animals are not people.
What defines a person, a person to you? A person, I guess.
A human being. Bipedal. A bipedal individual. A person.
Bipedal individual. A person.
There's a dictionary and there's also laws that...
Kangaroos are bipedal.
What's that?
Kangaroos are bipedal. Are they human?
Not everything that's bipedal.
Chimpanzees or gorillas?
They're not bipedal. They walk on all fours.
So the point is, though, bipedal is not the definition of humans. Plus, we have humans that do exist that are not bipedal.
Well, with medical issues, yes.
Right. So even within our species, we're very different, right? No two humans are the exact same.
You are correct.
Right. Okay. So then what is it that morally separates animals from us?
Some of the animals are a food source.
Well, humans could be a food source.
Well, then you get into the legality part of it and the morality part of it.
So you already went through a long spiel about legality and how legality doesn't equal morality, right? So what morally... Go ahead, Chip, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right, because you just mentioned one thing I just realized. I wrote down all of these reasons why you think it's okay to do this to them, but that's what you're answering. The question is why you think it's moral, and one of the reasons why you say you think it's moral is because you think it's moral. Like literally, one of the reasons is for you thinking that it's moral to exploit animals is because you think it's moral to exploit animals.
It's moral to eat a food source.
But a food source can, as you've been just explained now, they can also be a human. I'm going to shut up now.
Well, we have to agree to disagree on that.
No, it's a fact that we can eat human flesh because humans have done so in extreme situations.
Well, and they have, and I believe if you look around the world that you will find a place that probably still does it today.
Do you find that moral?
Personally, no.
Right. So then what morally separates humans and animals? What makes it specifically okay to do this to animals?
Because they are a food source.
Okay, so my family raised me to think that eating human babies as bacon is a good thing and a great source of protein. Do you think that I am moral for eating human babies?
No, I don't.
Right. Why?
Because I don't think that is proper.
Is it because there's someone in that baby that's like, hey, having an experience here, and it would be immoral, even though they're vulnerable, for someone who knows right from wrong to take advantage of this vulnerable individual?
Well, from my perspective, a human being is not a food source, and I know that's not.
Why are they not a food source? But why not? Why are they not?
I'll still disagree.
Why not? Why not?
Because I don't personally believe it's proper.
But why do you believe that?
Perfect example.
Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? Like, if I told you the sky is green, wouldn't you want to know why I think the sky is green? Why do you think it's okay to stab animals, but not okay to stab humans?
Because it's not morally acceptable to me, and it's not legal. perfect example.
We're just going
morally,
in circles at this point.
I can morally
you
believe
just
that
keep
drinking
saying
alcohol is wrong.
No. Listen, you just keep saying that. So let me ask you this: do you think that we should apply morality based on what somebody thinks? So if I think something is moral, does that make that thing moral?
From your perspective, it does. Yes.
But how about from your perspective?
If I believe that it's moral, from my perspective, yes.
No, man. So I'll explain it again. If I'm doing an action and there's a victim of this action, okay? Maybe it's a positive action, maybe it's a negative action. That's not the point right now. What I'm trying to grasp is whether I have acted morally or not, okay? And you will come at me and you will be appalled about what I have done. But I will come and tell you, listen, I find this moral. Is that a good enough justification just to tell you that I find it moral? Or would you want to know how come I find this moral, especially when I commit, let's say, incredible acts of violence towards somebody?
Well, you're using the term somebody, and that is
please
not
don't strawman the argument.
Apply to an animal.
Please don't strawman the argument, and please answer the question.
I am talking about legal definitions. I think it's important to be precise.
Okay, it's important to be precise. Was I talking about animals? I said somebody, right? I said somebody. If you think somebody is a human being, then answer my question as it applies to what you think somebody is or who you think somebody is.
Somebody is an unknown person.
So if that's not the question. My question is, if I find oppressing somebody moral, is it moral for me to oppress somebody?
No.
But why?
Because it's human.
According to you, it is. According to you, it is. You say, I think it's moral because I think it's moral. We keep asking you why, and you say, because I think it's moral. So if I oppress somebody or commit acts of violence against somebody, wouldn't you want a better explanation rather than because I think it's moral?
Okay, I'll try it again. My socialization and my upbringing and personal experiences, I find there's nothing wrong with it.
But again, you're not saying any extra information. Do you understand that, right?
But you got to look at everything that I gave you as the totality of the circumstances. Well, it is.
You gave me it, as I have explained to you. You benefit from it. It's socially acceptable. It is legal. You enjoy the product, which is the same thing as saying you benefit from it, by the way. And yes. And another thing is you said, I think it's moral. All of these are answers to the question, why is it moral? And why do you commit acts of violence? And your response is, I think it's moral. So now I'm going to ask you the same thing. When you have somebody who you give moral worth to, and you see somebody else applying incredible acts of violence toward that individual that you give moral worth to, and they come at you and give the same justifications as, well, I benefit from it. It is socially acceptable. It is legal for me to be violent towards them, and I enjoy the result of me being violent towards them. Plus, I think it's moral. Would you want better justifications for violence against these individuals?
If it fits all of my criteria, I'm good with it.
So then if it fits all your criteria, okay. So then, as I said, then if we take back to slavery, if you ask me as a slave owner and I reply with exactly what you just said, I think it's a labor source, it's socially acceptable, it's legal, I think it's moral, and I enjoy the product that comes out of it, then you're good with it, right? As you just said now.
No, because that goes against my moral compass. I don't believe you.
Okay. I don't have anything more to say.
Yeah, I don't. So what? Right now, I want you to understand, Arjan. You're contradicting yourself. You're being a hypocrite. You can't actually say what the difference is. You just think there is a difference, and the same thing happens with every in-group process way of thinking. I don't know what it is about them. They're just different enough that it justifies me oppressing them and exploiting them. That's what you're doing right now. And then you're just going in circles. You're literally going back to legality, which we've covered thoroughly. We even talked about how you think that if you decide something is moral without any other reason, then that's good enough. You should have a reason to think why something is moral. All right? I mean, all of these could justify any injustice. A rapist could use the exact same argument. I don't know if you know this, but it was legal to grape your wife until like the mid-90s in most countries.
Actually,
it was socially acceptable. It was legal. It was the men that did this thought it was moral, and they enjoyed what they got from it.
Well, and it might, I don't know if it was the 90s or earlier than that, but the statute in Michigan for that actually specifically said a man that's not your wife.
Okay, so the point is it moral to violate someone without their consent, despite the legality, despite the social acceptance?
No.
Right. That's the point. That's the point. And because you cannot point out the difference between humans and animals, you are literally just doing what's called speciesism, which is similar to racism. You're picking the arbitrary trait of them not being in your group. And therefore, even though they're a suffering, or they're a being that can suffer and is having their own experience and prefers to continue having more experiences, you don't care about that. You only care about your benefit.
Well, then I guess you're going to have to call me selfish.
Also, I'd like to add that marital rape, I just looked it up. I'm sorry, this is the only thing I want to say. Marital rape was up until 1993 allowed in most U.S. states. So yes, it was the 90s.
Yeah, and it specifically it said, man, that's not your wife, in the statute in the state that I live in. I was aware of that.
Right. So the point is, even though it was legal, socially acceptable, and they enjoyed what they got out of it, it was a pleasure source. It still was not moral. And the reason why it wasn't moral is because there was a victim involved. Somebody was suffering for someone else's pleasure, and they weren't giving consent to that. And we're saying the same thing is happening for the animals. They don't want to be used. They have the capacity to suffer, and they prefer to avoid it. Just because you get pleasure out of it doesn't justify causing them that suffering. You can get pleasure from anything else.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree.
Well, what is it you think you need from animals?
I enjoy eating animals.
So it just comes down to your sensory pleasure. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're right. Would you eat dogs?
No, because then I'll go back to it's not socially acceptable. Where I'm at, it's not legal. And there are places around the world where it is legal, but I disagree with them, but I can't impose my will on them.
So if you go to a place where it's socially acceptable and it's legal, would you eat dogs then?
No, because dogs and cats are classified as pets, and we take them into our house. They actually become family members.
Who classified them as pets?
Oh, I don't know the answer to who classified them as pets, but we've been bringing them into our homes for years.
Okay, so you classify them as pets, right? You give them a label as pets. Therefore, they are somehow worthy of moral consideration simply because you yourself gave them a label. But you don't have any logical reason for it. So I think it's pretty clear what vegan stoner lady has said to you is that you are being speciesist. Do you know what speciesism is?
That's where you're claiming that I'm a racist, but against animals.
No, it's basically discrimination based on species, right?
Same thing.
Do you discriminate based on species? Do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, so then I'm going to ask you this. What is a species?
What is a species?
Yes, since you discriminate based on it, you should be it's very important that you are able to extremely well classify if somebody is a different species or not, right? Since you discriminate based on species.
Yes, they are different types of life forms.
Different types of life forms. You will have to go with more than that. I'm a different type of life form also than you.
Well, you have broken down into humans, dogs, cats, birds.
So you don't know what the species is. That's what you're saying, because you don't.
Okay.
So you discriminate. Let's recap. Let's recap a little bit. You discriminate based on phenotypes that you don't know what you don't even know which phenotypes classify or make a group called species. So then I ask you, do you think there's any difference between how you discriminate and based how races discriminate?
Yes.
Well, it seems to me like there isn't. Both of you have no logical base to stand on, do you? And right, like explain to me.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
So it seems to me like you and the racist have no logical base to stand on for your discrimination. Discrimination, when it comes to extreme forms of violence, of course you get pleasure and benefit from it, but I think it requires some form of really good justification, more than just, well, I value certain species, just like a racist would say, well, I value certain races.
But you're talking about two different topics. I cannot value a species and value a race, or I cannot value a race and value a species.
Okay, so if you don't value a race, then do you think you have the right to do whatever you want to them?
No, that's not within my moral wheelhouse.
No, but if you don't value a species, you somehow think you can do whatever you want to them, right?
I just said no. That's not within my moral wheelhouse. Did I lose you?
Oh, Chip, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I was getting a call. I got a call.
Oh, gotcha. We didn't, usually it kicks you out. Like, it usually gives us some kind of sign that you're gone. It didn't even give us that sign.
Oh, no, that's okay. That's okay. It's probably somebody trying to sell something. They're always do that stuff. I'm just like, I feel like, John, I'm sorry, but you're just not tracking what we're saying. You just don't get what we're saying, is there? You were taught certain values. You never question those values, and you may not like to hear it, but the reality is that if you were born in a society where women would be disrespected, which they were not nearly 100 years ago, where women were considered a source where you could take advantage of, it was socially acceptable to take advantage of women. It was legal, and the people who were taking advantage of women were enjoying the byproduct of that. And they thought it was moral. So if you were born nearly 100 years ago, you definitely would have been one of the people who would be, discriminating based on gender, sex, everything. Because you don't really have a logical basis to stand on. And if you want to prove me wrong, prove me wrong. But I used all your logic and applied it to exactly what a racist would say, exactly what a sexist would say. And they all apply. So by your own logic, you would definitely be a racist if you were in a different situation, a sexist if you are in a different situation, because you have no logical base to stand on. You understand that?
Yeah, and I also understand that you are entitled to your own opinion, even if you're wrong.
This is mathematical. This isn't an opinion. You understand that, right? This is, I just done a mathematical calculation based on what you said. You said certain statements. I merely changed the variable from you to a different individual and the action to a different action. And you considered it based on your logical argumentation, it is all moral. If you want to say what the distinction is, you can say what the distinction is, but I doubt that you can.
The distinction between what?
Between discriminating based on race or discriminating based on species.
Well, treating somebody differently based on the color of their skin is treating them by race. So or ethnic background, religion, religion's not race, but...
No, yeah, race is a compound of phenotypes. It's not just skin color, you're right there. But, treating an individual differently based on characteristics that they're born with is wrong, right?
Yes, treating a person differently because of individual characteristics is wrong.
Okay, right. So do you think that you chose to be born human?
No, I did not.
Do you think a cow chooses to be born a cow?
No.
Choose to be born a dog?
No.
Okay, so if none of them choose to be born what they're born, you discriminate based on how they're born.
Because some of them are food sources and some of them are not.
But this statement alone is a discriminatory statement. You calling them a food source is a discrimination.
Really?
Yes.
We're going to have to agree to disagree.
You call some of them a food source and not others a food source, yet all of them can be a food source.
And I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you. So, I understand.
Okay, look, agree to disagree just means that you're forfeiting, that you're admitting you're wrong.
No, I'm not admitting my wrong. I'm wrong.
Okay, well then
I'm not agreeing.
You just disagree. You're just disagreeing.
I disagree.
Okay, we're not agreeing to disagree. We're saying you are wrong.
Okay, and I disagree with you.
Okay, you never have the moral right over someone else's autonomy, even if they're an animal. Just because it's convenient, legal, and you enjoy what comes out of their oppression doesn't make it moral. But we're going to move on, John. I appreciate you taking the time to come up here. Have a good day. Whew. Went on a bit of a circle. We went over a couple of good things, though, at the same time, too. So.
I mean, I tried. I really.
You tried really hard. Yeah.
I really tried to explain. I was nice and everything, but I feel like that's the thing about people. Like, they don't really want to apply logic to moral values. They just want to say, these are my moral values and full stop. Yeah.
I think you called it, though, right where he says, I consider it moral, which I think is his final marker. And you were like, well, but what justifies you labeling it as moral? And he literally just was begging the question. He kept saying, I just consider it moral.
Yeah. True.
That was like, you were spot on with that, I thought. So, yeah, I feel like he did actually gave in a little bit and accepted some of our information. Maybe he'll go do some research, look up what we've talked about. Hope so. I do have some resources above me. Watch Dominion if you don't know what animals go through. This just shows you the standard practices and what those labels mean. And then below that is nutritionfacts.org, where you can go look up all the studies that state how different plant-based foods are healthier than animal-based foods, or just understand what makes something healthy. And they even have the Dailey Dozen, which is really easy to make sure you get everything in a day. So easy resources. Do you want to say anything else? I was going to bring someone else up.
No, I think it's important to kind of see what we're talking about, because I feel like a lot of people that do also get this magical image in their head, and the reason why they claim so much to these moral, illogical moral absurdities is because they don't really understand the horrors that they are supporting. And it's kind of sad because on top of them accepting the horrors that they're saying, they're also giving money to corporations and companies that are literally spending their money trying to keep them in the dark. And all we're trying to do is educate them and trying to show them that there are better ways. But hey, that's the life of an activist, I guess. So
no, totally. Yeah. Not to sound like complaining. It's just more like we recognize where their logic goes awry. We're like, well, see, now this is where the flaw is in your thinking.
Yeah.
All right, Bangladesh, come on down. You got to be over 18. Hey, are you over 18? Hi.
I was 18. That okay?
You're 18? What year were you born?
2007, February 20th.
Okay, right on. If they could say no, would you still do it?
Yes, but
okay.
What
morally justifies that? Go ahead and ask your question, but then answer mine.
Okay. So if I understand that like the entire problem is the exploitation of animals, and they say When you say exploitation, you mean like the bad treatment, they're paying like factory killing.
When I say exploitation, I mean all use.
So, even eating them?
Say it one more time.
Even eating them?
Even eating them.
So, okay. So, say you give an animal like a good life. You have like some cows, some pigs, whatever. They live in good condition. They have a lot of land, whatever. And then one day, one of them just die from natural causes. Would it still be bad to eat the animal that died?
The issue isn't so much that you're going to eat them after they die. It's that you still see animals as a resource for you. So you demanded that individual be bred into existence so that you could benefit from their body. That is exploitation. So I could have human slaves that I treat really, really well, and I don't harm, and I wait till they naturally die, but then I eat them. Now, there's nothing morally wrong specifically with me eating their body after they've naturally passed away. It's weird, but there's nothing really morally wrong. But what was morally wrong is that I stole someone's freedom, and I put my purpose on them because I wanted to benefit from them. Do you see why even backyard farming is still immoral?
Yeah, I understand, but it still kind of would be wrong because I kind of don't know. But anyway,
yeah, but
like,
what's wrong with cannibalism? It's a genuine, like, I agree. I don't want to eat humans without their consent, but why do we view it as a bad thing?
Because it's the same species. I feel like cannibalism is kind of like a taboo against
is it because if you were to see someone, is it because if you saw a human eating another human, you would feel uncomfortable because you could be the next victim, right?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Right, okay. So the fact that you care about your autonomy and your safety, right? That's all that matters to you in that moment. You shouldn't be invaded by him. Okay, so then what is the difference between us and the animals we use?
The difference.
Why is it okay for us to eat their flesh but not a human?
Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to sound, but I simply think because it is, I'm not saying it's, I think it's okay because it's just natural. It's just the natural order of things. Like,
well, there's a lot of things that are natural that are not good. Grape, for example, is natural, keeps up biodiversity, and maintains that we don't get wiped out by disease.
I mean,
increases our population, but it's still immoral, right? Even though it's natural.
I wouldn't really say that natural because it could simply just.
It is natural. It happens in nature all the time.
It does, but.
Okay, but you agree with me, even though it's natural, right? It's not moral. That's all I'm trying to make the point.
Okay, but I still don't think that eating animals would fall under that because that's just how things is. That's just what you're supposed to do. As like you see.
Well, let me put it this way. Do you understand that animals are sentient, meaning they have the capacity to have subjective feelings like pain? They look forward to continuing having more experiences. You agree that they do that? So with that in mind, why cause them unnecessary harm when you don't need to?
It's not unnecessary. We evolved.
What is it you need? What is it you need from them?
Nutrients. Sustenance.
Nutrients? What nutrients?
Proteins that they have in their flesh.
Okay. They do have proteins, but plants also have proteins. And as long as you eat your daily calorie amount, you'll get all the protein you need. If you're bodybuilding, Chip is actually a great reference for protein. He eats lots of protein. You can get all the protein you need on a plant-based diet. Go ahead, Chip, please. I'd love for you to share your thoughts.
Yeah, how much protein do you get per day?
Protein I get per day?
Yeah, how much protein do you get per day?
I couldn't tell you, but I get a bit. I guess I've eaten a lot of. Things.
Do you think you can get? Do you think you can get all the nutrition that you need from a plant-based diet?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate you saying that. So if you think you can get all the nutrition that you need from a plant-based diet, then doesn't that make exploiting an animal optional?
I guess so technically, yes, but I just think that it just would not work because so the goal of veganism is just like your ideal world would be an entire world where everybody's just vegan, right? I was asking.
Just like an ideal world would be where everybody's a feminist, yes. The ideal world would be where everybody's vegan also, yes.
Okay, yes, but feminism actually does help something. I feel like feminism really does help.
Wait a minute. What is feminism?
Feminism is just advocating for the equality and rights of women.
Okay, and what is veganism?
A philosophy just advocating for the rights of animals.
Do you think that a world would be better where everybody respects the rights of animals?
Yes, but not in the way that you saying it. I feel like
what rights do you think animals deserve?
The right to live, the right to.
They have the they deserve the right to live. So we don't have the right to take that life away from them, right? If you think they deserve the right to live.
I suppose so, yeah.
So then why, so given that, as you said, it is technically optional, how can we morally justify taking their right away, a right that you think they deserve, for something we don't actually need?
It's not that we don't need it. We are literally omnivores.
Wait. But you agreed that you can thrive, that you can eat and be healthy on a plant-based diet, correct? You can get everything you need on a plant-based diet.
In modern society, yes.
Yeah, so then that means that consuming animals or animal products is optional. Therefore, what we do to them is all for an optional product, is without any need.
But what I'm trying to say is, okay, in ideal world, your ideal world, if everybody went vegan, what effects you think that would have on humanity from like an evolutionary standpoint? Because
it would be great. It would be great. Huh? Do you know why? Because what is the main issue that humans have nowadays, health-wise?
Back issues?
No, it's not back issues. It's heart disease. It's obesity, right? We all know that the biggest issue, and especially let's not say worldwide, because there's plenty of humans on this planet who are actually starving, and that's a different issue. But in a modern society, in a society that the reason why I think we should focus on a modern society is because all other societies strive to be in that situation, right? So we should judge a modern society, not a society that hasn't modernized yet. So in a modern society, the biggest issues that humans have is not lack of calories, but rather too much calories, right? Or unhealthy eating habits, correct? Yeah, well, a plant-based diet would obviously be better for all of that, wouldn't it? Because, when you eat more fiber, you feel full faster, therefore you will eat less calories. The main reason why we get so many ex-vegans online is because most of these people, they didn't eat enough calories. So I would say that actually for humanity's sake, in more ways than just once, not just health, environment, society, everybody would benefit if the world were vegan. But, we can go about this and we can have a long conversation about this, but we're merely interested in why you are not vegan, why you think it's wrong to do this. Right to exploit animals for something you acknowledge that you don't need.
Okay, but most, like heart disease, all the problems come from overconsumption, not necessarily the consumption of, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Heart disease actually is the leading indicator of heart disease is increased ApoB, and there is a correlation between high cholesterol and high ApoB, and the same as high saturated fat, which can increase cholesterol. So you can make an assumption that people consuming less saturated fat less dietary cholesterol would eventually lead to better health outcomes. Yes.
Okay, but that's for a certain group of people. That's not the entirety of humanity.
Well, that's what meta-analysis show, and that applies to the common human being. Are there exceptions out there? I'm sure there are, but I don't think we're talking to them. You're an individual here, and is that what's stopping you? Let me ask you clear. The reason why you think it's okay to exploit animals for optional products is because you think that some people cannot be healthy on a plant-based diet? Is that why you choose not to do it?
No. I think, I just think it's just simply the natural order of things. You're supposed to eat meat. We evolved to eat meat.
Wait. You make these arguments. You're supposed to eat meat. Who says you're supposed to eat meat?
Your body.
Your body says you're supposed to eat meat. Which part of your body is saying you're supposed to eat meat?
The entire body.
The entire body. What's wrong with my body? Because my body is not saying to eat meat. Yeah, is your hand saying you should eat meat?
Okay, I can't get into the specifics because I was not a biologist on that. But I just saying we wouldn't have our current. You wouldn't be thinking. We wouldn't have this kind of this level of intelligence without eating meat, because we evolved this way because of.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because at that point in time, human beings needed calories. At that point in time, human beings, when human beings discovered fire and the fact that they could cook meat, they could get large amounts of calories, because at that moment in time, we did not have agriculture. We did not have so much, do you know how the planet was at that point in time? There wasn't fruit that humans could eat. Humans were either scavengers or hunters. You know that. So humans were barely getting enough calories, barely. That's why our human body is made in a way that if you eat less calories, you live for longer, because our human body isn't meant to eat a lot of calories. But because we started eating more calories, our brain developed more, and there's obviously other reasons why that happened. But that does not mean that going forward, somehow eating animal products benefits us. In fact, as I've just mentioned, there are several arguments to be made that continuing this exploitation and slaughter of innocent animals is actually detrimental to each individual human being.
You could expand on that?
Yeah, well, as I explained, health-wise, you get better health outcomes according to meta-analysis on a plant-based diet. And giving moral consideration to animals would obviously lead to less discrimination overall, right? Because if you don't no longer discriminate based on species, how are you going to discriminate based on race? Let's face it. What else? Let's see. Environmentally speaking, we would be using less land, we would have less eutrophication, less water, so we would actually be tackling climate change pretty well if everybody adopted a plant-based diet. Let's say if we didn't have places in our society which we have to hide from everybody, where they commit incredible acts of violence, I would say that would also be better for society. If we didn't have subsidies, because animal agriculture depends on subsidies because it cannot possibly make the profit, then our economy would also be better. Let's see. If we didn't have these subsidies and all these corrupt bullshit, we will also have less corruption, because animal agriculture, what they do is with the subsidies is they actually, some of it goes to pay politicians so that they get more subsidies. Well, parts of it goes to politicians to pay for the subsidies. Sorry, parts of it goes to politicians. Parts of it goes so that they keep you more in the dark. They don't show you what happens in slaughterhouse. Have you ever asked yourself why? If you think it's so nice what they do to animals, why isn't animal agriculture fully transparent? Do you know what happens to dairy cows, for example?
Yes, but that's not my argument though. What I'm saying is I understand the exploitation of animal. When I say exploitation, I mean like the bad treatment they get usually.
Well, let's talk about dairy cows. Let's talk about dairy cows, because I don't think you know what happens to dairy cows. Do you know what happens to dairy cows?
Yeah.
Well, Anna, do you want to tell him? Because I feel like I've been figuring it out.
Yeah. So most often they're artificially inseminated. Do you know what that is? So the farmer will glove up all the way up to his shoulder, and then he'll penetrate the cow's bum, and through the lining of her colon will hold her cervix in place. So he's inside of her, holding her organs in place. Then they have a little syringe that's full of bull semen, which they had to extract either by hand or by putting toys in a male cow's bum. This is someone's job. So they collect that, and then they spurt that into her, and they massage it in. They call it the slick, which is what they're looking for when they're massaging it. They want her to accept it inside, which is her just basically relaxing, and that requires her being massaged on the inside. Do you think that bestiality is moral?
No, I do not.
Okay, so do you buy milk?
Yes.
All right, so you're demanding that process. That's the first part that's terrible. After 9 months, she's had a baby. After a 9 months pregnancy, she'll give birth. They'll take her baby away. Cows are probably one of the most studied animals, and they have an immense bond, maternal bond. So they have to remove the baby within 24 hours because any longer is considered inhumane. Are you okay with that? Does that sound like something you want to support?
Well, okay. Well, it does sound bad. I actually did not know that was I didn't know that what you're talking about, where you're sticking your hand in what kind of places. I did not know that thing. So
that's the most common way. That's the most common way, but you may hear someone say, oh, well, my cows do it the natural way. And I've literally had farmers on my live that say the issue with that method is that bulls are aggressive, and many of them now are very heavy. They harm the cow, if not totally breaking her back. So that's why that method isn't used as often, in addition to it not being as successful as AI. So they find it more compassionate to use AI, which is them penetrating the cow. So natural or AI. Yeah, exactly. It's not moral to use someone's body just so that we can get some secretion.
Okay, but I feel like at the same time, although it is bad, and I know it have alternatives, it definitely have alternatives there. That's what I'm saying. You can just use the alternatives. That we explained there, that was bad. I understand that. But just use an alternative, and it would not, like I wouldn't see the problem with using an alternative way to get dairy, to get meats.
An alternative, you mean, what do you mean by an alternative?
Any way that doesn't involve, as I said, that weird. I don't think I should say it.
So a cow is a mammal. When do mammals produce milk?
Motherhood.
Right. So there is no way around that. She has to be made pregnant. Her baby must be removed so that we get the milk, or at least the majority. Some people think that if they let the cow drink some of it and they take the other part, that it's moral, but you're still demanding someone be existing so that you can use whatever comes out. You know, it's weird, not moral.
You can't just, you take your saying it wouldn't be possible to just get a cow pregnant. Somehow, just get a pregnant cow and use the milk.
Yeah, how would you do it? How would you do it?
Just put a cow in a bull in the same place. No?
So I just told you some farmers do claim to do the natural method of letting a bull mount a cow. Did you hear my explanation on that?
I hear that, but you don't necessarily
So what was wrong with it? Tell me what was wrong with the natural mounting.
You say some of the bulls would be too heavy.
Yes, and what else?
Is break the cow's back. No?
Right, but they're aggressive. So even if they didn't break her back, they're aggressive. If we did this to a human, if we put a human woman in a pen with a randy male, what would we call that?
Grape.
Grape. That's my fault. I should have, I guess, prepped for you to say it. So I appreciate that you catching yourself.
My bad.
But yes, we would call that grape. Who decides for the cow when she gets pregnant?
nobody, but I'd seen that's
The farmer. Is it the farmer or the cow? The farmer, right?
The farmer.
Who decides who she mates with? The cow or the farmer? Does any of that sound moral?
No. But what I've seen is have alternatives. It definitely has.
So the alternatives would be oat milk, hemp milk, soy milk.
Or the alternatives could simply just be another more, although it might be less efficient, it will be another way of getting dairy from the cows.
Why is it immoral for me to enslave a human woman to make breast milk? Why would that be immoral for me to do?
Because the human would know what's going on. The human knows, the human have
this human woman doesn't know really what's going on. She has the cognition of a 2 to 3 year old.
How would the woman not know?
I would AI her, or maybe I'll let her get naturally mounted by a randy male. I'll lock them in a room so she can't escape.
Yeah, and I'm saying not bad.
Right. Why is it immoral for me to do that? But why is it immoral for me to do that? Why?
Because you're making stuff happen unnaturally when it should not happen that way.
Has nothing to do with nature. It has to do with a victim. Mm-hmm. It has to do with someone not having their autonomy respected, their preferences not respected, right? Mm-hmm. That female doesn't necessarily consent to anything and is being forced to do something to benefit others. Is that moral?
I guess not, no.
Right. Cows are very maternal feeling beings. Go ahead, sorry.
Yes. I feel like this scenario itself was just too unrealistic. What's
unrealistic? We literally enslaved humans.
Yes, I know.
Okay, but it's not that far-fetched. It literally happened. This has happened. Humans have done this to other humans.
The problem with slavery in the past, though, was the fact that obviously he was imposing on the autonomy of
exactly.
Human, but another issue was the humans knew what was going on. The humans happy.
But that doesn't matter. Even if they weren't aware of it, it would still have been immoral. It doesn't matter if they're aware of it. If anything, that just adds to it. That adds to the injustice. They've been tricked and lied to.
Sure, you could say so.
Yeah.
But also,
so it's. Go ahead, Chip. Sorry.
I'm curious, because there was one thing, schmistiality. You said it's wrong. By the way, navigate with the words properly. I've also been thinking about to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's okay if you guys make mistakes. It's know when you say a word, if someone corrects you, or we'll figure out. I honestly, there's no actual hard list. You just bump into boundaries, so it's okay.
Yeah. What makes schmistiality wrong?
The fact that, one, it simply just isn't compatible among species. Two, the fact that the animal really does not know what's going on, and the fact that you're using it for, sick purposes, put that simply unnecessary. And
okay, so can you repeat that? I'll write them down, all the reasons again to be sure.
It does not. It's completely unnecessary. That's the baseline. It's completely unnecessary. It makes no sense doing it.
So it's unnecessary, okay. But somebody who participates in that will say that they get benefit from it, won't they?
An unnecessary benefit, yes.
Yeah. So they benefit from it. It's unnecessary. And all that makes it wrong. Then shouldn't any other form of act that involves certain things, or any form of act that involves non-consent, because I would say the reason why it's bad, it's not because of it's unnecessary, but because it's unconsensual. Just like any other forms of intercourse is bad because of non-consent, Consent is very important in these situations, and that's part of the reasons why I think that's the biggest reason why what makes it wrong. Not that we're not compatible or anything else, because there's human beings who do have relationships with animals, and I don't mean romantic relationships. I mean, like friendships and stuff like that, and those we agree on, especially because there is consent to them. But do you think that any of the animals that we farm consent to what we do to them?
No, but again, as I was saying earlier, I genuinely just think that's simply the natural order of things. Be it like, okay,
but wait, it's not even natural. What do you mean it's natural? Because it's not even natural, is it? Like, even that argument doesn't hold a candle, because there is nowhere in nature a species that takes another species that impregnates them and then takes their baby away, only so that they can drink their milk, and when they can no longer produce milk, they unalive them. I don't think there's any species on this planet that does that. So what we do to animals is actually incredibly unnatural. Animal agriculture is the most unnatural thing we do.
They would if they could, though. But I'm saying, the fact taking them, rounding them up, eating, killing them, I'm out. I could say that.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, doing that to them.
Yeah.
Yes, unaliving them. When they reach a certain age or whatever, old age, anything like that.
But do you know at what age animals are unalived on average?
No.
Let's say chickens. So chickens can live up to 10 years. Do you know at what age chickens are unalived at?
1 year? I don't know.
42 days.
Damn.
So that's a little bit over a month. They can live 10 years. Imagine, we unalive them as babies. All animals are unalived as babies because it makes the meat more tender and better.
Damn. And I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, but
I mean, that's not cool, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I feel like, I think I was kind of in your position at times. And I feel like maybe you would benefit a lot from watching the Dominion movie that is written there, because you might learn a little bit of things that you might not be okay with. And, when I first watched this kind of stuff and I learned what it is, my first instinct was to deny and say, maybe there's a better way. Heck, I was saying, what if I keep some chickens in my balcony? I live in an apartment. I have a balcony here. And I said, what if I keep some chickens in my balcony and I take their eggs and stuff? But the more you look into it, the more you realize there's no ethical side to it. But you really do need to look into it, because, words cannot do it justice to what we do to them.
Understand. But I genuinely don't think watching it would make any difference. I see, I understand what you're trying to say. I really do. But I just don't think it wouldn't change the way I think. Because, as I said, it's just how things is. You have to eat other things to stay alive. And not to stay alive, but, well,
if you saw someone harming an animal unnecessarily, would you speak up?
Yes.
Okay. So that's all we're talking about, is that natural instinct that you recognize that they have the capacity to suffer, and for them to suffer unnecessarily is wrong. That's it. That you share that same principle, and we're saying that you're escalating the violence. You're not kicking, you're demanding someone be severed from the head up. How is that not worse than someone kicking a dog for entertainment? At least that dog, I'm not saying that we need to kick dogs, I'm saying they're both wrong, but that dog gets to continue having experiences, Once the animal loses their head, that is it. They don't get any more.
No, and I really understand what you're trying to say. I really do. But I say, what you should come at instead of eating the animals, the bad treatment is be put under before the consumption, the killing.
What I'm saying is, if we care about their welfare, if you care about their welfare beforehand, you should care about their welfare that you don't need to take their life. If you care about them suffering, you don't need to put them through the scary thing that we don't even, for your pleasure. It's just sensory pleasure.
Okay.
You're no different than the person kicking the dog. So
I really do
the reason why you should watch this, if you feel that dogs shouldn't suffer unnecessarily, you should watch this and imagine the animals are dogs. Cows are nicknamed grass puppies. They're very similar to dogs. They like to play with balls. They're friendly. Chickens and turkeys, they'll purr when you cuddle them like cats. So they're no different. And if you would have more of a visceral reaction if you were watching this happen to dogs and that would stop you, maybe you need to think about that. Maybe just watch it and be like, wow, I wouldn't stand for this happening to dogs. Why am I standing for this to happen to any other sentient being? Just watch it. It's free. It's also on YouTube. You can just look up Dominion 2018 on YouTube. It's a free movie, and it's literally just to show you what those labels mean. So let's say you decide that you still want to participate in demanding their exploitation. You would at least know what those labels mean. When they say cage free, they're still in a long shed. And as long as they have some small doors that they legally open once in a while and some of the chickens get out, that's considered free range. But we paint a different picture in our minds. We imagine these fully feathered, happy chickens rooting around in grass, picking out bugs. We paint that picture in our head and then we give them our money when that's not even what they're doing. So this would benefit you no matter what your decision is. You would at least be a more informed consumer.
I hear you. For real. I hear you. But I guess
okay.
I simply, I guess it's just a disagreement. I don't.
So what I'm saying is, you're already poo-pooing it without even trying. I'm asking you, could you at least try to just watch it? I'm not telling you need to change from watching it. I'm just saying open your mind to information so that you know what it is that you're demanding. Because you are literally demanding it when you go in the store and pick it up. What you're saying is, I like this, I like the price, I want more. Keep making more. They do. They send the next individual in to replace what you purchase.
And if it helps, all of us regretted not watching it earlier.
Yeah.
I understand. I really understand.
Okay, let me put it this way. I'm going to let you go, but if you watch it, just send me a private message, and you could just say it changed nothing for me. But I would just genuinely wish that you would go look at it. Will you promise me that you'll watch it?
For sure.
Okay, I appreciate it. Really. That's all. I just want you to just look at the information. That's it. I appreciate you, Bangladesh. All right. You have a great day. Bye. Well, I appreciate people looking into things because that's really a start, but
I mean, I think he was genuine in a lot of the things he was saying. I appreciated the conversation with him.
Yeah, he was actually brought up also a lot of good points that needed to be addressed for other people because they can seem kind of hidden. But yeah, I don't know. I get kind of sad when people aren't willing to look at resources. I'm like, why? Just look at them, please.
Yeah, just get informed. At the end of the day, worst case scenario, you have better arguments against it if that's what you want.
Exactly. If anything, you can come back at me and be like, well, actually, you were wrong about this, and this is why I'm still going to do what I do. It's good to be informed, so that way you actually know why you're defending what you do.
Exactly.
Land Rover Dave. Hey, are you over 18?
Hello?
Are you over 18?
Yeah.
Hi. Okay, cool. So if they could say no, would you still do it?
To what?
Oh, if animals could tell you no, don't use me, would you still use them?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, what morally justifies that? Are you covering your mic? It's really hard to hear you.
Yeah, my face is terrible.
Okay. So what morally justifies using animals?
Because it's something I grew up with. I've always got animals, and in a sense, if you have fed it as a kid.
I need you to speak closer to the mic. I can't hear you.
If you were fed it as a kid, then you decide to change, it's kind of hypocritical that you're changing anyway, because you want to digest it.
So if I gave you information on how to eat or how you could get your needs met, would you then find it a moral obligation to live vegan?
No.
Okay. Do you know what veganism means?
You don't believe in animals to be farmed, that sort of thing.
Okay, you're onto it. Why would someone avoid using animals and not want animals to be farmed?
Wait, say that again, sorry.
Why would someone that calls himself vegan avoid animal use and think that animals should not be farmed? Why would someone think that way? I'm just asking your thoughts on it.
I don't obviously know.
Oh, okay. So do you understand that animals are sentient?
I have no idea what you mean by that.
Oh, okay, sentience means a subject having an experience and weighing that experience out on whether if they prefer it or not. Typically, we avoid harm, and we have this interest in continuing to have more experiences and prefer to be comfortable. That's sentience. So do you agree that animals are sentient?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Some degree I do, some degree I don't.
So the animals we use are sentient. There is evidence of this. There's the Cambridge Declaration of Consciousness and the New York Declaration of Consciousness, and they go over the thousands of studies that they've collected and deem that animals are sentient. They have a brain, central nervous system. They avoid suffering. They prefer to be comfortable. They make preferences. They have a complex inner life. So what morally then justifies using
a sentient feeling being that looks different from us but not okay to do to humans? What separates us?
We're more advanced animals than what they are.
We're more what?
More advanced.
Okay. Would you say that every human is advanced? Like, do we have some humans that are not cognitively advanced?
My personal opinion, yeah.
Right. I mean, I understand that you're also making a joke, but on an actual literal note, there are humans that are not intelligent. You could argue they are not sapient. Yeah. They're just sentient. They're still existing, still making preferences.
Yeah, but
right.
In some cases, it's cool. Or at least
you gotta speak closer to your mic. I can't really hear you.
In some cases, it's cruel.
It's cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we don't want to be cruel to someone just because they're not intelligent, correct? Because that would be immoral.
Yeah.
And that's because that individual is having an experience, right?
Yeah, I suppose you'd say that, yeah.
Yeah. It would be wrong to inflict suffering on a being for no reason.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying the same thing for the animals. Just because they don't focus on the same things that we do and they look different, they still deserve the same respect of having their autonomy respected and not being exploited. Just like you and me.
So what you're saying they realise is, yes, there is farms out there and industry.
You guys speak closer to the mic. Your mic is very soft.
The industry side of the farming, so they're big corporations and that, there's stuff that I don't agree with.
Corporation farms that you don't agree with, is that what you said?
Yeah, in some aspects, yes.
Sorry, I hit something on my phone. It kicked me out for a second. So if you agree that mistreating animals is immoral in factory farming, right? Or why do you think factory farming is immoral? Maybe I should start there.
because they do it in such a large scale, they don't actually care about the animals.
Okay, so you do care about the welfare of the individuals.
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay, I'm telling you. Oh, go ahead.
What if I were to show you a study done on 1,300 dairy farms in Germany of varying sizes, both small and large. So some of them were factory farms, some weren't.
Yeah.
And the study shows that the welfare of individuals is fairly similar in both situations.
Can I stop you there?
I mean, I stopped.
I am actually from a farming background myself. So
okay, so does that mean you know about welfare of animals?
Yeah, of course I do. I do it every day of my life.
What does an animal need?
Food, water, care, attention.
Okay. Do you think, let me put it this way. Why do you think that in a factory farming they're not getting food, shelter, care?
Because they're seen as a number.
I mean, you see them as a product if you have farmed them, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
I don't see mine as a product at all.
Do you see them as individuals?
I see them as part of my family that I work with.
Whoa, that's interesting. So you see them as the part of the family that you work with. Which other members of your family that you work with would you send to a slaughterhouse?
Why do I send them to a slaughterhouse?
Do you send your animals to a slaughterhouse?
Well, I don't send them to a slaughterhouse.
Do you unalive them?
Due to yes, we do if it's needed.
What do you mean needed?
For argument's sake, it depends. Like if there's a calf that's been born and got major deformities.
Oh, so wait, you only slaughter the animals who have deformities?
It depends. If it's severe, yes, because it's not right to keep them going.
So please describe to me your operation, because I think I'm asking you questions where you don't describe. Please describe to me your operation. What do you do with animals there, and what's the purpose for what you do?
Dairy.
Okay, so you do dairy. How many cows do you have?
300 milking, about another 280 not.
And that's not a CAFO, 380?
Sorry?
So how many of them are female?
There's 300 at the moment, and some coming through, which is about 120 coming through. And there's about 60 males.
So 300 women and 60 males. 60 males. And
yeah,
60 males.
Yeah.
Okay. Please explain to me how that happened. Why is it not the numbers closer to each other? Like, I can accept, of course, one greater than the other, but right now one is 7 times larger than the other. How does that happen?
What? In the sense of where there's more females than males?
Where are all the males? Yeah, there should be at least 400 males, shouldn't there?
No.
No? So wait, so if a calf is born a male, what happens to them?
They get separated from out of their pens and then put into their own section when they're old enough. And then
they get put in their what?
Fed.
Can you please repeat what you said?
I said they get separated when they're old enough.
Okay.
So after about 2 weeks, and then they get put into a separate pen.
Okay, so they get separated when they're old enough, and that is 2 weeks. Okay, and then they get put in a pen. What happens afterwards? Because they probably don't reach adulthood, do they?
Some do. It depends on
some do.
Buyers that buy them, or.
But some don't.
No, I don't know what happens to them when they get. They go on to some.
You sell them all at auction, is what you're saying.
No, not necessarily.
Wait.
Sorry.
But I want to understand exactly the process. So there's a baby calf male that was born. You have enough males. You separate them. What happens next?
You separate them, and then they get fed up.
Okay, next.
And then they get sold on to other farm.
Okay, I want you to tell me, because you said they are like family. How many members of your family do you sell them to other places?
Well, I thought about selling the kids numerous times, but can't get anyone to buy them.
I don't know. I don't know if you're being serious about it or you're joking, but I am actually being serious right now. What other members of your family are you selling them off?
Well, no, you couldn't get anyone to buy them, could you? To be fair.
Is that the reason why you are not selling your kids?
No, of course it isn't.
Okay, so then you don't actually treat them like members of your family. That's just a justification you tell yourself, right? Because you also, how many members of your family do you separate them from their mother after 2 weeks of birth?
After 2 weeks. Well, say that again. No, you lost me there.
I'm just trying to understand, because you seem to say that you treat all of these cows, all of 420 cows, as members of your family. And seems like I don't know how many members of your family you impregnate, how many members of your family you milk, and all of it for profit. Because obviously, if you have 420 cows and 60 males, you don't do it for necessity, you do it for money.
Right, I spend more time with those animals than I do my own partner.
But I'm not doubting that. That sure is possible. Just like a mechanic would probably spend more time with his cars than he does with his partner. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden he gives moral value to the cars, does it?
So when they need... I don't quite get what you're getting at.
But how about when they don't want to be unalived? What if...
Yeah.
Because what if they don't want to be separated from their mothers? What happens then? You treat them like members of their family and you look after them, right? So in theory, if you look after them and what they want, then surely you should not commit such a horrific thing that is so emotionally scarring for them as to separate them from their mothers, right?
Yeah, but you're only looking at it from one perspective.
The perspective of the victim, yes.
So when the mother cow doesn't want to, when the mother cow doesn't want the baby, then and kicks it and boots it and all the rest of it, which happens.
It happens, but that's not what you're saying, is it? You just said just now that you separate them after 2 weeks. All of a sudden, you start saying when they don't want them. Like, yet again, it sounds to me like you're just trying to find justifications. You're not actually having any form of logic behind your argument.
Male ones go off onto other farms. Some are used for breeding stock. Some are used for going in the abattoirs and stuff like that. It's just, that is what happens.
Some go to abattoirs. How many members of your family do you send to abattoirs?
Well, I have family members that worked in one, and so have I myself.
Well, how many of them do you send them to go through the process in abattoir, not how many work in an abattoir?
Well, how many people have you known to go through an abattoir?
Well, none, but I'm just trying to understand. You say you treat them like family, so I'm assuming that you would also send other members of your family to abattoirs.
Of course I can. Of course, yeah, we all care. Every farmer on this planet cares for their animals to a certain degree. Yes, it's a business.
Wait a minute, because you just said just now, that factory farming is bad because they're just a number. You have 420 cows. I'll bet you don't have 420 names for them. You definitely have numbers for them, do you not?
You could look on the computer system if you want. They've all got names.
They've all got names. Can you name all of them?
By sight, yes.
By all 420. Come on, that's so disingenuous. Nobody can name 420 humans, let alone 420 animals.
All I'm hearing is that you absolutely betray them because it sounds like they trust you. If you really are that close to them, it is the ultimate betrayal that you take their life. And also that you put them in situations to be forcefully impregnated.
You're wrong. You are so wrong.
Who does that to their family?
What, forcefully impregnates them? You're wrong in so many
who
aspects
forcefully impregnates any of their family morally?
You're assuming that I do that, which I don't.
How do you get dairy cows if you don't force them to be pregnant?
Because they naturally come into season.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Wait, would you continue? Let's
they
talk.
Let off
let's see.
Wait,
would you continue? Let's
they
talk.
let off
Let's see it this way.
to ball senses, and then
Yes,
run the ball.
Sure. You can find money from it.
You don't make any money anyway.
So would you continue doing this? Answer the questions if you would make absolutely zero money from it.
Yes.
Yes. So why do you do it now?
Why do I do it now? Because it's a lifestyle.
So you do out of a lifestyle, you forcefully inseminate sentient beings, separate their babies from their mother, and some of them, according to your own claims, sent to an abattoir. This is a lifestyle that you're defending right now towards defenseless creatures. Say that again?
Not from our farm. They don't go from our farm straight to the abattoir.
Doesn't matter. It's your responsibilities because, according to you, you are the ones who are inseminating them and bringing them into existence without the consent of other cows. Because I'm assuming you keep the males and females separate and you only put them together when you want them to breed, correct?
They naturally come into season, yes, because a female...
They naturally come into season, but they're not always together, are they?
No, they're separated, and when they're seen bullet,
Yes. So you put them, you keep them separate, then you put them together when you want them to reproduce. So because obviously you admit that I'm sure you can admit that what you do to at least you may buy yourself a story that what you do to most of them is okay, but you can at least admit that what you do to some of them is not okay, correct?
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
Okay, so then if you don't make money out of it, and you say it's a lifestyle, why would you do something that's not okay, that you consider not okay to sentient beings? Why would you continue doing it since as you're claiming you don't benefit from it because you don't make money from it?
No, we don't make money from it.
So you don't benefit from it. So why continue doing something that you say is not okay?
Just out of interest, whereabouts are you in the world?
That's not the question. I will answer your question. I promise you that. But I need to understand why exactly is it that you are doing this?
Because it's something that was in my bloodlines through my grandparents, my father. It goes back generations. That's just what I was brought into.
So because somebody told you to do it, you continue doing it, even though you acknowledge that some of the things you do are not moral, you continue doing it because somebody told you to do it. And you think that's a good way to live your life.
Not myself. The way we run the farm that we've got, I see no problem with. There is farms out there.
Wait. No. You just now you said that with some of them, even on your farms, there are actions that you find immoral.
Not directly on mine. I don't see nothing. I don't.
But do you see the responsibility that you have for those immoral actions? Do you see the responsibilities that you have for those immoral actions? Do you claim responsibility for them?
What immoral are you directly talking about?
Okay, wait. Let's put it this way. Let me ask you this, because there's clearly a thing here, right? So you say you separate the babies from the mothers. Yeah. Why? If you don't need to get the milk, why not let them stay with their mother? If you don't make a profit out of it and you want to make the best situation, wouldn't the best situation be that they should stay with their mothers?
In some cases, very minimal though, due to the fact that a lot of calves don't manage to get the colostrum they need. Do you know anything
I repeat
about
the
that?
question. So what you're saying that, wait, so first of all, you're appealing to nature by saying that cows are, do breed naturally, okay? And then, so they naturally breed on your farm,
Yeah.
but somehow that nature doesn't have a reason for breeding or bringing into existence a child, because that child that is brought into existence does not serve a purpose in any shape or form to their existence, to their mother. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you're saying it's natural for them to bring a child into existence, but that it's not natural for that child to stay with their mother. That's why I'm doing this, right?
Yeah, they don't always.
I mean, do you understand the contradictions that you're facing right now, right? Like, I honestly, I'm 100% sure that you're lying about a lot of the things. Like the fact that you say you're not making money from it, that's obviously a lie. Because otherwise, why would you even have 420 cows and 60 males? Why even sell them? Wait, why even sell the males? Why not keep the males?
Because they don't make anywhere near the money.
There you go. Thank you. You just proved my point. You do it for the money. You don't do it because you care. You care about those cows like I care about my laptop. I'm a software engineer. My laptop is very important to me. But it is, at the end of the day, an object to me, just like a cow is. All those cows that you claim, they all have names in a thing. I can put up an Excel sheet, put a couple of names, then drag the whole thing down up until 420 and say, look, all the cows have names. But at the end of the day, you know for a fact you don't know all of their names. You know for a fact that some of the things you're doing are immoral. And you know for a fact that you're doing it because you benefit from money out of it. You see them as objects, not as individuals. You care about them just like I care about my laptop. Not as individuals, you care about what they can give to you.
Have you been anywhere near a farm?
I live in the Netherlands, my man, and thus asking me answering your questions. I am surrounded by farms.
You are. So have you actually been on a farm?
My grandmother had a farm. Both my grandparents had farms. Because I come from Romania, where subsistence agriculture was a big deal. Number one. Number two, I have been on, I think, at least 5 farms here. I have friends who have farms over here. So yes, I have been, and I have talked to at least 50 farmers. You are just being disingenuous right now because at least most of them admit that what they're doing is for money and it is a business. A lot of them go like, well, what do you want? It's a business. But you don't even want to admit this. You know why? Because you know you're in the wrong.
No, because you don't make any money.
Well, no, you do make some money because you do sell them. That's money that you make out of selling them. What do you mean you make no money? You make money out of selling them. I'm assuming you sell the milk also, so you do make money.
Yeah, which goes back into the feed. The feed they need. So, AKA the silage, the straw for their bed.
No, you're just trying to find justifications. That's all it is.
I do think it comes
if someone, so I'm curious, Land Rover, if someone was to be raising dogs in the same manner that you treat cows, would you find that moral?
There is in some parts of the world.
Yeah, do you find that moral?
If that's what they do, that's what they do. I don't.
You got to get closer to the mic.
If that's what they do in their country.
That you treat.
If that's what they do.
Moral? You got to get closer to the mic. Is farming dogs exactly how you farm cows? Would you think that I'm moral?
Well, I've never thought about it in that aspect.
She would be treating them like family, by the way.
I've got 2 dogs myself.
So I'm raising on my farm just the females because they're the ones that produce more babies, and we do harvest their milk. But the males, I auction off, and I have no idea what they do to them. Most likely slaughterhouse. Do you think I am moral?
One, that probably does happen, and if that's what they do.
But do you think it's moral?
If that's what they do in that country, then yeah.
I'm asking you, do you think that's moral? You think it's moral for me to farm? I don't have to farm dogs. I don't have to farm dogs. I could find other ways to utilize my land. I just prefer because it's been in my family, and there's people that like what I produce. Do you think it's moral?
What, the dog? No, not myself.
Okay. So what is it for you that separates dogs and cows?
I'm carrying on my family tradition.
Okay, but what is it that, why do you in your mind classify farming dogs in that manner as immoral, but farming cows, it's moral?
It's something I grew up with. I don't see
Okay, again, just because you grew up with something doesn't mean you can't recognize that there's some injustice here. Why can't you change? Why don't you want to change if you recognize there's a victim? If I was farming dogs, wouldn't it be preferable if I tried to utilize my land in some other way that didn't harm someone?
In what way?
I could grow beans, or I could be a sanctuary. I could do whatever I want, but just something different. Would that be preferable to me farming dogs, in your opinion?
Yeah, but it probably won't work.
Okay, so, I'm not asking about what reality is. I'm asking about your preferences. Would you prefer me, I'm a dog farmer, would you prefer me to do something different? Whether or not I can is not the point, but you would prefer me to not be farming dogs, correct?
Yeah. Right. If you wanted to hear that, then yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I do have a resource for you if what's holding you back is just that you have a dairy farm, which I understand can be restraining because you've invested a lot and you can be in a lot of debt at the same time, even though you're making some money.
Yeah.
So if you are hearing what we're saying and you're understanding our points, because it sounds like you are, if you agree that me as a dog farmer should stop, it sounds like you're on the same page. I would give you the resource called the Ranchers Advocacy Program. It's run by Renee by Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. Her and her husband used to be ranchers for a very long time. I'm almost sure that they inherited it, but I don't know for sure. But they are helping others if they want to transition away from using animals to utilizing their land in some other fashion.
Right.
So don't let your family's tradition hold you back. You can still keep your history alive, but without demanding this exploitation to continue. There is a way. So would you consider that, or at least maybe reach out to Renee?
I'd have a look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Look, but
yeah, the Ranchers Advocacy Program. I'll put it in the chat so you can take a screenshot. Let's see, how do I?
Yeah, I can't see myself changing, to be fair, because it's what I know.
Are you in US or in UK?
I'm in UK now.
UK. So there is a program. There is a program in UK. I don't know exactly about it, but I can find out if you drop me a message. Where they help transition. They help animal farmers transition to plant farming, and they actually end up making more money in the process.
Nice. I would love that resource too, Chet. You can give it to me later, but I would love that.
I've seen it on Melon Steel. So, yeah.
I've seen
okay.
The Minion thing. And from what I can tell, that there's different countries to here in the UK. A lot of it does change. There is other things that aren't quite as well. From my experiences, knowing of.
Get closer to your mic. It's hard to hear.
I think. Did you get what part of that did you get?
Honestly, I got little bits, and I was hoping the mic was going to come in, and so I missed most of it. Could you repeat it? I'm really sorry.
I've seen that Dominion video.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys post everywhere.
Yep.
And a lot of it is not based from here in the UK.
Well, so most of the footage is directly from Australia, but they do have UK footage, and I would argue there's actually recently a lot of UK footage has come out, like Joey Carbstrong and Taryn Partridge. They both have come out with investigative footage of a lot of UK farms. Specifically, Pignorant was a really big documentary that came out of one of UK's finest pig farmers. They were supposed to be like the highest welfare pig farmer, and Joey did an investigation and found the treatment to still not be up to par because it's really just a label and they're not really highly enforced.
Yeah.
So that's why we tell people to watch Dominion, because those practices are what we call standard. It's not that this is shock value, it's so that you know what those labels mean and what they actually allow. What they tolerate as free range, humane raised, grass fed. They're all basically words to make us feel better about oppressing and exploiting someone for taste pleasure.
Yeah. So, do you know anything about the red tractor scheme?
Yes.
Yeah.
Joey specifically has been looking at all red tractor approved farms.
Do you agree with that?
With what?
With the actual processes involved with the red tractor scheme?
No, because I don't think the animals should be bred at all. We should stop their breeding right now.
Right.
If
So
we
there-
stop
there's
breeding
some-
them into existence, they would be gone in 20 years.
I'm not part of the red tractor scheme because I don't agree with that.
I mean, they're just ploys to get more money out of people and to make them feel better about the animals' welfare. It's all the same stuff to me. All these systems are just approving oppression and exploitation. The reason why those things don't get enforced is because those people benefit from the oppression. And to stop the line is to cause things to cost more, you know? It's not worth, that animal to them is gonna die anyway or be unalived anyway. See, I mess up too. So there's no point stepping in and changing things, right? That's why if we see animals as objects, which you still see your family animals as objects, because you feel you have the right to do what you want to them, regardless of what they want.
No, I do what's best for those animals.
Is taking their life in their best interest?
If it's morally needed, then yeah.
Is making them be pregnant so you can benefit off of the baby fluid? Is that necessary?
Yeah, I guess you're on about milk.
Of course. You're a dairy farmer.
But
I'm just saying, like, this is all unnecessary. You already agreed that if we were doing this to dogs, it would be immoral. And I'm telling you, they're all the same. So...
Yeah, but I don't know anyone that milks dogs.
I mean, it doesn't matter. The point is they're a sentient being, right? I'm not talking about practicality. I'm talking about morality. Is it wrong to force someone to be pregnant? And even if you didn't force them, you set up the situation so that you could benefit from them having a baby. I mean, did you ask these cows? Did they give you consent to them, being with that specific male? I'm going to answer you no, because cows can't consent. They can't say, not reliably. They can't say, yes, I want to mate with that guy. I know him. We're really close. I want to have a family, right? You are just deciding based off of what benefits you.
Right, so you put it in the wild, how do you think they communicate to...
I wouldn't say put them in the wild.
Okay, alright. Let's go with bison.
So... If you're saying, like, if everyone was to go vegan, what would happen? I would hope that we could, if everyone vegan, they would want to not exploit animals anymore. So I'm sure we would come to some conclusion to what to do best for the animals. My idea would be that we could take subsidies that are usually used to fatten those animals up and just use it to keep them alive for the rest of their life and no longer procreate. In about 20 years, there would be no more domesticated animals, and we wouldn't have to have conversations about whether it's right or wrong to use them.
No, I want your opinion on this, and that's your question. So you got bison. that are roaming wherever
Free.
in America, yeah. How do you think the males have consent or whatever you would class as?
Right. So animals are what we call moral patients. We are moral agents. You and I can understand morality and weigh out what's right and wrong. Moral patients might have some idea of morality, but they don't necessarily understand it. So we don't hold them to the same standard as us. So although, yes, animals do immoral things, we shouldn't try to get our morality from them. They're in a situation that's fight or flight. You know, they're doing what keeps them going and what's instinctual, which isn't necessarily moral.
But that's all right.
Well, I mean, I can't communicate with them. If I could communicate with animals that are predators and I had the opportunity, I would try, yeah. But I can't do that. I can talk to you, though. Humans are the bigger issue. If we can control ourselves, maybe we can start looking into nature. But right now, all we have is us, right? We're a huge detriment to other sentient beings. We can control what we do.
Right. So basically, what from what I can grasp of what you're saying is that is fine for them to do it in like bison in their natural environment.
Yeah, I'm not saying I totally agree with what they do, but I'm not going to use that as a justification to enslave them or someone else for my benefit, just because bison mistreat female bison.
So just for out of I'd like to just pass this information on to you.
Get closer to your mic again. I'm sorry, I can't really hear you.
I'd like to just give you some information that I know is a fact. Okay.
Okay.
The animals, aka female cows, leave a pheromone. The bull senses it, which then they mate them and serve the cow.
Yes, we don't need to allow them to mate. I understand that they go through a natural cycle, but what we've done to cows, we've taken them from their natural habitats. Oh yeah, take a screenshot of ThatChipGuy. I don't know if you can see his comment. Refarmed official helps dairy farmers transition to oat farming. I don't know if you want that resource. I don't know if you know how to screenshot. I just had a brain fart though. I just saw his comment and I wanted to underline it. Can you say what you were saying before and I'll respond again?
Basically, the mating progress of cattle is the same as a lot of animals. They let off natural pheromones. Like we don't as such because we can't sense the pheromones as human beings.
Go ahead.
I actually looked into this as you were talking about bisons and stuff. I actually looked into it, and there is such a thing as biological consent, which is what animals essentially give, not expressed consent, right? And indeed, what they do is if they're in their mating period, male dominant. Let me just say what it says. Okay, during mating season, a bull competes for access to females. Through displays of strength and direct combat. The dominant bull will tend, I don't know what that means, a receptive female, following her closely, guarding her from rival males, and trying to mate when she shows signs of readiness, right? But the whole point about all of this, by the way, is that this is consent that happens between animals. You trying to guard this for because that's the reason why it matters is because it's about interest, right? When you do all of this to these animals, you're not looking after their interest, you're looking after your interest. You're looking, because otherwise, why would you do it? Yet again, like we come back to the same question, and you have to be honest about it. You do it for money. That's your interest. You don't have 420 cows because you like cows. You have 420 cows because you make money from them.
No, I don't. I don't make any profit.
You don't make any profit, but you make money from it. And hence why maybe it's the fact that you don't make profit from it and the fact that you are doing these things that, as you said, even you agreed and you admitted to some of them potentially being immoral, then this should get you to question why the hell would you continue doing it? You're not doing them a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor. Why continue doing it? It's just because it's the only thing you know how to do. But as I told you, refarmed, they are literally helping dairy farmers transition to producing plant milk. So it's a private business, by the way. So it might not be the easiest way to get into it, but you should at least have some form of will to try and change all of this. Because if you see nothing wrong with what you do, then you will always be doing this thing, not making any money, and doing something that is immoral. Because if you would, if as Vegan Stoner Lady so greatly put it, you wouldn't do it to dogs, yet you do it to cows. Okay. And I'm assuming you see both of them as members of your family, but somehow some are okay to do this, some aren't.
Yeah, like my dogs come with me every day.
But you do understand the idea, right? If you don't do to dogs, why do to cows?
Well, I don't really treat. You know, I got cows that have been on the farm since, Jesus, years, like literally years, and they are like pets. They are my pets.
How long does a cow live on your farm, on average?
It depends, doesn't it? It depends. Because
what happens when they can no longer be pregnant or give milk? Because, you know, at some point they can no longer get pregnant, right? And as you said, they have a mating period, and you respect that. And if they don't get pregnant in that mating period, what happens to them?
They stay on the farm.
What happens if they can no longer get pregnant at all?
They were 200 acres to roam around on, mate. Like the cow doesn't leave the farm unless it, you know, kills over.
So at what age do you unalive these animals?
When they naturally unalive, mate.
So you're saying all these animals are never unalived? None of them are alive?
There's cows on a farm that are like 28 years old.
And at what age did they stop producing milk?
What? I don't know. I was only a kid when they were born.
Okay, but then by your own logic, by the time that some of the cows are born now, by the time they come to the end of their life, you should have thousands of animals.
Yeah, but there's a natural where you got livestock, you got dead stock. That's how it works.
What does that mean?
Some. Not everyone survives, does it?
Wait, not everyone survives? What does that mean? I thought that's the whole benefit of them being on your farm, that they don't have to survive, that you help them. So,
like, some cows have twins the same as humans, and one might not make it. You can't. There's no physical chance in saving every single one. It goes with nature. It's exactly the same.
So, how many do you send to the slaughterhouse per year?
I don't send any to the slaughterhouse. We all get sent to other farms or vice versa.
Okay, and then these other farms are like finishing farms. Is that how it's working?
Yeah, or they go to the market or whatnot, and they buy them all.
Okay, so you just sell all the animals at market. That's what you do.
Yeah, not all the females. They stay on the farm until they can no longer see it.
Okay, you don't sell the dairy cows at market?
No.
Okay. Well, so what's happening to all these males, as you know, I'm sure, they're getting unalived. Most of them are not going to be used for mating. You only need a couple. So you're demanding already that someone lose their life just because they're born male, right? You're sending them into auction to wipe your hands clean, but you are the reason why they exist. You're the reason why they're going into now a slaughterhouse, because you force them to exist and they're not useful to you. Yeah. So we're saying you don't need to do that. We can give you resources to change what you're doing. As you already agreed with dogs, this would be immoral, but it's the exact same thing.
If you let them out in the field, free roaming, in the 200 acres, they've only
You got to get close to your mic. I can't hear you again.
I said you put the males and some females in the field, give them the acres to run around on, test off 36 into one, and then they're just annihilate themselves.
So
not using them and seeing them and respecting them as sentient beings. Not using them anymore. Why is it okay for you to benefit off of them without their consent?
Okay.
Why can't you do what you do right now with people?
That's already been done. That's a thing of the past.
Right. And why was that immoral?
It still goes on today.
Right, but it's immoral, right?
Yeah, it isn't right. But we haven't got.
It's immoral because those enslaved humans are a subject of an existence, right? They're experiencing life and weighing out those experiences on whether they prefer them or not. Typically, they're avoiding harm, right?
Yeah, like the soul, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's immoral to enslave another human, someone who is having a subjective experience and has the capacity to suffer. Because they want to do their own thing. Just like if you were the enslaved one, you wouldn't find it fair. So let's say you lose your sapience, your ability to think about thoughts. You're only sentient now. You're still able to enjoy things, but you're not exactly super intelligent anymore. Is it now moral to exploit you?
What if that just went overnight?
I'm going to use you. Yeah, something happens overnight. You no longer have your sapience abilities. You're not as intelligent as the average human. Is it moral for me to use you without your consent for my benefit?
I don't know anything about it.
Let's say that I put you in a pen with females that are going to do what they want to you, whether or not you like it. They don't necessarily need to be your type of female, right? They don't need to be your stereotypical attractive. But these females are going to do what they want to you because they're going to get pregnant and I'm going to benefit from whatever comes out from that. Is that moral?
I don't actually know, like thinking about it.
So you're okay with someone violating your bodily autonomy without your consent? What if it were other men?
If you're not meant to,
some people have
how are you gonna know about it?
Discomfort with other genders.
How are you going to know about it if you ain't got anything there?
Do you care about your autonomy?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Should I respect your autonomy?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
What about when you sleep? Should we respect your autonomy when you sleep?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. What about if you were unconscious in a coma?
I'd like to think you would, but you wouldn't.
Right. Your preference. We're just talking about your preferences. You'd be preferred to be respected, right?
Yeah, I would, yeah, but it wouldn't necessarily always happen that way, would it? You don't know who...
So what I'm saying is, if you would prefer to be respected despite your cognitive abilities, we're saying that the animals that you're raising deserve the same respect, to not be exploited, to not be used, whether or not they're aware of it.
By basically taking their milk.
You're stealing their babies to get their milk. You're sending their sons to be slaughtered. And you're setting up their daughters to be raped in the same situation that they were raped in.
Yeah, but they're not though.
They are.
Into that.
They are. What's the moral difference between the cows that you're raising and a human
that doesn't have sapience but sentience? What's the moral difference?
Well, one are not AI human directly.
One of them what? Oh, you're not... Get closer to your mic. I can't hear you.
I'm not doing it directly myself.
It doesn't matter. I could have a group of humans that are, again, not sapient but sentient. I could have males that I have picked out that I have now put in the pen with them. Is that moral? Because they're naturally going to mate? I would hope you say no. This is a long pause. I shouldn't. No one should be enslaving humans.
I'm trying to get what you're looking at.
So I'm saying that there is no moral difference between a human that's not sapient and animals, morally speaking. We all have the same capacity of being able to have a subjective experience, weighing out those experiences and making preferences. We all share that we want to avoid harm. We share that we want to continue having experiences to weigh out. We have personal, unique interests, animals and humans. And because what we care about in other humans, and the reason why we respect other humans, is their sentience, I'm saying animals are also sentient and deserve that same respect.
Yeah, no, I sort of understand.
Like, you would never put a woman, you would never force a woman to get pregnant by a man that you picked out for her. I'm telling you, you doing that to the cows is immoral. You making males and females mate so that they make babies so that you can profit off the milk. I know you don't make a ton of profit, but so that you can benefit off of what comes out, that's immoral. If they were out in the woods just living their life, that's fine. But you intervening and starting to claim that things are yours and it's your right to touch their autonomy or to benefit from their union, you have nothing to do with them.
Yeah, but they still make their own choices because.
But the thing is, you're limiting their choices. You've robbed their freedom. Slaves also could make some choices, but they weren't free.
How have I robbed their freedom?
You are specifically breeding them into existence to use for your benefit. They don't need to exist. They don't need to have more babies. You could give them birth control so that they stop having babies.
Which is not natural.
It doesn't matter what's natural. Cows are not natural. We took them from their natural ancestors, forced a female to mate with a male that she wouldn't normally mate with, so that her baby was deformed and better fit our needs.
Okay.
And eventually they lost their ability to really survive the wild. So now we have someone that we have deformed so that they benefit us, and they can't necessarily we've handicapped them. So they can't even be totally free. So the solution is to provide them to enable their choices, do what's best in their interests, not for us. And using them is not in their best interest. Taking baby formula from them is not in their best interest. Making them have baby after baby after baby, that is not in their best interest. Would you at least consider looking at the resource that Chip gave you, maybe reaching out to them or looking up their website?
I have a look.
Okay. Okay. I think we're going to move on from here, but I just want you, Chip, can you repeat what the name of the project was?
Yeah, it's Farmed, FARM apostrophe D. It's like a private, company. Maybe search for Farmed and Oats. Maybe that will yield a good result, because Refarmed. I'm sorry, it's called Refarmed. REFARM apostrophe D. And they are helping farmers transition to alternative agriculture. But before we go, I actually have one question for you. What is it that you hoped to get out of this conversation?
No, I was just intrigued on seeing what your actual thoughts are. You know, I don't think I'll ever change eating meat myself. Right, I'm gonna put that brutally honest.
So on top of the animals you participate in exploitation, you also consume animals.
Yeah, of course I do.
But you wouldn't consume dog meat.
In worst case, in some
No, in the
yes,
same situation, not in a necessity situation, in the same situation you are now,
I
optional.
wouldn't pick it every day. No.
But
No,
would you pick cow meat every day?
I gotta be honest. I do eat a lot of beef. Yes.
Okay, so there you go. So you have this, like, at least acknowledge that what you have said is completely wrong, because you say you started with you treat them like family, but now all of a sudden you eat flesh of their, well, maybe not their siblings, but members of the same species like them. You eat their flesh. You don't do that to your families who are human. You don't do that to dogs, yet you do that to cows. And I can understand that you're coming from the perspective where you've been doing this your whole life and you've been taught one thing one way. But if you are so much surrounded by animals, if you have, as you claim, according to your claim, take care of these cows, then surely, like, because I've talked to a lot of farmers who actually take care of their animals, and the farmers that do acknowledge that there's no difference between cows and dogs. There literally is no difference from their perspective. So if you actually do say that it's okay to kill cows but not dogs, then you're either not actually taking care of, like, I do think that you have been lying on some of the things, because as you've been discussing just now, I also have been looking into the profit margin for cows, and there's at least 100 pounds per cow. But let's not go into all of this, right? Because I'm not really interested in that. I'm just like, you do it, like, there's so much inconsistency in what you're saying that I don't wholeheartedly believe what you're saying. And I think you should look into it, because at least just to know if you are on the right side of history, just FYI, because you might just be another cogwheel in the system like all of us are, but you might be another cogwheel in the bad system, the one that actually does something worse for everybody. So I don't know what you want to do, but I would never do that with my life. I like to challenge my life, and I like to be on the right side of it.
Which everyone's entitled to do, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely just look into that refarmed group, just because it does sound like they're a really great situation, because they help you transition based off of using the same equipment that you already have as a dairy farmer. So it sounds like it would be a nice transition. And oat milk is honestly my favorite. So it says plant-based milks, but I've heard that oats are the best.
So.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of grains are actually grown for the animals that we use. So that doesn't surprise me.
That chap we were just talking to, I don't know. Yeah, you probably hear me or whatever. You know, I'm not making up some story or whatever. But just genuinely my life in that thing. Like,
well, you do claim you claim ignorance sometimes. Like, you're like, I don't know what they do to them. You know, I don't know where they go. When really, you know, if you've been doing this your whole life, you know where they go.
A lot of
Say
them
again?
does, and a lot of them that they do use them for breeding. Not every single one goes to slaughter, but yeah, it does happen.
Okay, so for breeding for a bull, do you think that they're always just mounting females? And even for that, like, is that really fair to pimp out a male? Why don't we do that with humans?
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
Because there's a victim. You can't force somebody to do something against their will.
Have you ever visited the slaughterhouse?
Myself?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Have you seen what cows go through it in the slaughterhouse?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Is that okay by your standards?
I grew up around it, so I don't see a problem in it. But yes, I see where you're coming from. It's not the nicest of visual things to see.
We see them, they're scared. We see them, they beg for their life, they fight, they trash. You know, they really don't want to be there and do that.
I don't agree with halal.
You don't agree? I mean, listen, we're not saying that there's not better methods or worse methods. Hell, maybe you're one of the farmers who is doing the least amount of harm when you're farming, but you're still causing some harm. And if you actually care about them and you are selling a lot of them, well, and you know that you logically know that a lot of them also end up in slaughterhouses. I mean, you can't say that you care about them if they end up there. Like, I understand you can lie to yourself about the ones on the farm, and there's ethical concerns also there. But about the ones that end up in slaughterhouses, there's no way you can tell yourself that that's okay.
No, once they're off my, like the young stock, those ones, especially when they're going on to other farms, and they're no, I don't think about them. No, I don't.
Yeah, but you put it off of mind because go on.
Do you think the mothers think about it?
That I haven't honestly thought about.
Do they bellow?
Sorry?
Do they cry out for their baby?
No, not really.
They don't bellow?
No, not.
Cows are one of the most studied animals, and they're found to be extremely maternal, and that when you separate them from their babies, they go through an emotional distress, and so does the calf.
When you take them away, they holler a bit and they're younger.
So wouldn't it be preferable to not cause them that stress?
They're in the same shed, but in just 2 different pens.
Right, because you don't want the baby to be drinking her milk. That's when they bond, is when the baby is drinking from her breast. That's a bonding moment for them. And you're taking that because you're profiting from the fluid.
Yes, but it's not straight away.
Oh, must be getting a call.
Right, hello?
Yeah, you're here. We can hear you.
When they're first born, the first 24-hour period is most important to the young calf, okay? So you then take the milk up, milk the cow, and then that gets given to the calf.
Yeah, but you don't need to do any of that. None of that is necessary. And the only reason why the cows that you use overproduce is because they've been bred to do so.
Yeah, it probably is.
They've been so you're playing on the fact that they have this mutation that we've forced on them. And on top of that, like, even if cows were sometimes bad mothers, a lot of them have kind of PTSD from you stealing their babies, or at least not, they know that you're going to separate them in some form. So sometimes they just give up because they don't care anymore, right? It's a defense mechanism to protect themselves emotionally. It doesn't make it moral for you to then keep producing more and claim, well, they're bad mothers, so I have to keep them separate.
So in our herd, we got 5 generations.
Okay. I'm saying you don't need to be breeding them anymore. You could turn your land into a sanctuary and just have those cows literally be your family.
Okay, and then what are we going to feed them?
You would feed them the food that they still eat.
And
I don't know what just happened. That was weird. I don't know what just happened.
So where
I think...
I'm sorry, I must have done something.
Oh, that's okay. I always forget how to fix it too.
There you go.
Oh, did you fix it? Nice. I always forget how to do that. I always have to have someone fix it.
I was looking to send you a message with all the resources, because there's 2 organizations that do that.
If you tap on him, Oh, so you know how to. If you tap on him, and then his name, once a little black window pops up, and then there'll be an @ symbol at the bottom.
Oh, but that's just tagging him, right?
Yeah. Oh, you wanted to send him a direct message. You would have to go to his profile to do that, I think.
Yeah.
It won't take you out of the live if you do that. If you go click on his name and then go to profile, you'll still be in the live. You'll just be muted.
What was I going to say? Yeah, that's all well and good. I see your theory behind the sanctuary type thing, but where...
Well, let me ask you this way. Can I ask you something?
Okay.
If there was a way that you could maintain the cows that you have without sending them to market, and you could feed them all they needed, would that be preferable to selling them and using them for dairy?
Yeah, of course it would. But
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good. That's fantastic. I would strongly urge you to reach out to those resources that Chip just sent you, because I do think that you have a genuine vegan heart. It sounds like you do care about those cows. And if your preference would be to leave them be and let them live and, be like sanctuary cows, those resources could help you. And even if they can't, they can at least point you to the direction of where someone can help you. That's what's great about them, is even if they can't, they'll be able to send you to where to go.
Yeah. But if you look at the farm the land for crops, just that is...
Yeah, you could farm for crops, or you could be a sanctuary, or whatever you want to do. I'm sure they'll help you succeed, because they have the same goals that we do. They care about those individuals.
Yeah, certain soils can't grow certain crops.
Right, they would work with you on your specific land, and it sounds like the refarmed specifically would be great for you, because you're already in the position of a dairy farm. Yeah. And they specifically help dairy farms transition to plant-based milks based off of your current equipment.
Right.
But you have to, do you want to see all your friends live, or do you want to continue using them for the little bit of profit that you get? I would just leave you with that. Keep that in mind. How many more of your family do you want to sell off? And then if the answer is 0, go to Refarmed and reach out to them and see what they have to offer.
Or Viva Farming. Viva Farming. Viva Farming might have a better system, because they've been more established in UK. I don't know if you've heard of Viva Farming, but if you search specifically Viva Farming, you'll get you actually have a link specifically made for farmers, and they have a contact form, and they help you go forward with everything.
Yeah, I just I'd like you to keep a sort of an open mind to any other farmers that you do speak to, and with the due respect that it happens in different ways in different countries.
We acknowledge that we never did not acknowledge that. I think the whole point of it is not about the way it happens, but the fact that it happens. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for your time, and it's good to have these conversations, I think.
I agree.
I agree. I appreciate you coming up here, Land Rover. We definitely had a long back and forth, but you brought up great points. So it was really good to have your perspective, so we could talk about that and get that out on the table. It's a situation that most people aren't in, and there's still a way that you could live vegan. There's still a way for even you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming up. You have a great day, Land Rover. Yeah. And you know what? If you do reach out to any of those groups, I would love to hear any update, like what they do for you, if you're willing. Like a private message or joining my live again. Either way, I would love to hear an update.
Lovely. Cheers.
All right. You have a great day. Yeah. Bye. Well, I'm hoping that he at least checks out the resources. I feel like when your livelihood is on it, especially when it's been passed down, it can be a little harder to see past that cognitive dissonance. But he sounded at least somewhat open to things, and I appreciate that.
No, yeah, I agree. I enjoyed the conversation. He was indeed open towards a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent him a request now so that I can send him the resources directly, so that he doesn't have to search for them.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it. I think we need more of this. We need more. I don't like, honestly, in this whole situation, I think both the consumers and the farmers are the ones who are being duped the most, because corporations are earning the most money out of all of this. And, you know, defending this is insane to me. Like, at least defend the fact that you find it difficult or something. We can talk about that. But to defend what we do to animals is kind of like, I don't think it's genuine. I don't think anybody who genuinely knows, genuinely cares about animals will ever actually, in good conscience, genuinely defend what we do to them.
Exactly. I agree with you. Once you put the connection that there's someone experiencing suffering, and if you were in their position, you wouldn't want that done to you. It's hard to unclick those connections, you know. It's hard to not see that anymore. But, well, I think I'm gonna call it there. I have to use the restroom really badly, but I just want to quickly say though, Chip, I am so honored that you came up here. I really do appreciate you coming up here.
It was a nice conversation. I enjoy it. Yeah, I'm gonna come more often on this stream because I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. You actually bring a great balance up here. So yeah, I like you being up here. I'm gonna try to be on your Discord more too, because it is also a great, I don't know, it's a great outreach environment in general. You know, there's other vegans even in there, so yeah.
Well, today we had somebody who defended I told you, right, who defended the killing, unaliving Jewish people, so.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. People like to bite really nasty bullets, and they think that they're like, they get prideful about it, and it's like, you are being prideful about something really disgusting. Like, that is gross. No one should ever discriminate based off of race or species.
Yeah, I think from now on, I think it would be an interesting thing to ask people on Discord or on TikTok, what's the purpose of them coming on here? Because if they already start with the purpose of debate, then you can have a different conversation than if they start with the purpose of, well, I want to get informed. It's just because,
that's a good point.
Right? Because the people who come with debates, they just come up with arguments, and I'm like, okay, you wanted to have a debate, we can have a debate, but then let's see what we're debating in the first place, because otherwise it just goes all over the place. And if you want to be informed about something, well, let's see what you want to be informed on. Otherwise, I don't know. I just, like, today I noticed.
No, I love that.
People they just want to find their own argumentation. To, like, instead of saying my morality is this, they say my actions are this, therefore my morality is this.
I like that. That's a really good idea. Normally I have Lori up here, and she's actually really good about doing that, being like, why are you up here? It's such a great way to think of it, because I was trying before to get more people that just want to be informed, because I keep getting the debate bros. So,
yeah.
I'm going to ask them that from now on. Like, why are you up here? Just get to it. I like that.
Yeah, you can at least know which type of conversations you're going to have. So
yeah, exactly. Thank you, Chip. Everyone, if you're not following Chip, those that are in here, there's only 15 of us, but if you're not following Chip, go follow him on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Okay, we need to get his numbers up so he can also go live.
And follow Vegan Stoner Lady also. We need to get more numbers. All those numbers need to be up.
All the numbers, yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you again, Chip. I appreciate you being up here. Did you want to say any last words?
No, that's it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. And then all the vegans in the chat, I appreciate you guys being here, defending the chat, taking out the saucy people, and even the non-vegans. Thank you for being here, showing some curiosity. And the trolls, you know what? You're putting yourself in the environment of something that you're not comfortable with, so you're still getting something. You're hearing something. All right. If you're not vegan, go vegan, and have a great vegan